Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and this is Open Mic. What's Open Mic? Well, every day on the John Campea Show, Monday through Friday, we save some time and take live questions. But here on the weekends on Open Mics, that's all we do is just take live questions. And it is Saturday, July the 13th. Guys, we're heading into Comic-Con week. That's huge. But congratulations on making it through a week. It's Saturday. I hope you guys have some great plans for yourselves today. Something fun, something relaxing. Whatever it is you guys like to do, I hope that's on plate for you guys this week. And it is a big week. Like I said, it's Comic-Con this week. Ann and I went out for breakfast this morning, and we were just talking about, oh my, like, can you believe Comic-Con is this week? We're leaving for Comic-Con this week. Which is kind of crazy. So, by the way, guys, let me remind all of you right now that if you are going to be in or around the San Diego area this week, of course, I'm going to be down there at Comic-Con, but we're also doing our annual Masters of the Web panel at Comic-Con this year once again. And this year, the theme of the panel is, what is the theme of the panel again? Oh, yes. After Endgame, where does the comic book genre go from here? And the reason I think that's an important one for us to talk about right now is because when you think about the comic book movie genre and you think about everything that's built up in the comic book genre, and when you think about Endgame very much was, in many ways, kind of the peak. It was the summit, if you will, of comic book movies. It's like everything in the MCU for the last 11 years is built up to Endgame. And like Endgame was in many ways, while it's not my favorite comic book film of all time, it is one of the greats though. It is kind of the complete fulfillment of what the comic book genre is, right? You had every single Marvel hero in it, just about. They had just about every single Marvel hero in it, big galactic scale, blah, 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 21 film build up, 10 years, whatever. And then they hit the crescendo. All right, where do they go from here? You know, Spider-Man Far From Home is out right now, and it's great. I love it. But really, once you hit Endgame, where does the comic book genre go from here? And what challenges are now facing the comic book genre? And does this massive thing known as Endgame actually present some new problems for the comic book genre going forward? Anyway, that's what we're going to be talking about this year on the Masters of the Web panel at Comic-Con. And joining me on the panel this year, we've got, of course, Christian Harloff, Chris Gore, Fanboys director, like geek icon, including author of my favorite Dungeons and Dragons book of all time, Kyle Newman, is going to be on it. And these are the questions we're going to be talking about. After Endgame, where do we go from here? So the panel this year is going to be on Friday morning at 11 a.m. at the library auditorium. That's where they're holding us this year. So Friday at 11 a.m., plan on being there. We hope to see you there. And just to answer a lot of questions in advance, no, the panel is not going to be put on YouTube. This is exclusive for people at Comic-Con. We're not streaming it live. It's not going to be put up on YouTube afterwards. So if you're down in the San Diego area, please come and join us. And I am going to try to arrange a meet and greet. A lot of people have been asking me about that. I just haven't had time to sit down and try to figure it out altogether. Oh, also this. We've been waiting. You guys have been waiting for us to get the Spider-Man Far From Home what was it again? Open spoiler discussion part 2 put up. I recorded that earlier today, so that's going to go up online a little bit later today. So the Spider-Man Far From Home part 2 open spoiler discussion will go up online on the channel a little bit later today. Keep your eyes open for that. Whew, okay, with all that housekeeping out of the way, let's dive into it and get started on your questions. And we are going to get started here, if I can find where the first question is, because I'm totally frazzled today. That's all right. All right, our first question today comes to us from Andres Martinez, who writes, JB Smoove and Far From Home was added later because of his banter with Tom and Jacob in car commercial. This is why he's written secondary to Martin Starr's character. I thought I heard some about, I don't know if that's true. It might be true. It might totally be true. I'm just saying I don't know if that's true because he was in a previous movie, so it's not like they just thought to put him in at the last second. So I don't know about that. One of my criticisms of Far From Home was that while Martin Starr's character had a lot of great lines, they didn't really give many good lines to JB Smoove. And even if you do put him in last second, you can still give him some better lines. But anyway, that was just my little thing. So that's if that's true, that's interesting. Again, I'm not sure if that's true, but it very well may be. All right, Eddie Burton writes, Lou Temple apparently just slipped that Jack Nicholson cameos in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Would love to see him and Pacino share the screen. That rumor that Jack Nicholson may appear, because he hasn't been in any movies in many years. Like, he took a long hiatus from movies. A lot of people, were actually speculating that he may have retired. But his agent kept saying, nope, he hasn't retired. He's just taking a break. There have been rumors for a while that Jack Nicholson's going to be in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So if he does kind of pop up in there, it'll be a great surprise. We'll have to wait and see. But it would be kind of cool to see Jack and Al Pacino in the same scene together. Of course, just because if he is in the movie, it's probably a very small role, and who knows who he'll be on screen with. But it would be very cool, Eddie. It would be very cool to see that. All right. Tyler Van, thoughts on the show Scrubs? I loved Scrubs. I thought it was great. The doctor that the main character was kind of his intern. You know the actor who's in Office Space who says, "What would you say it is you do here?" You know that guy who's in Scrubs? He was one of my favorite. I can't remember the doctor's name now. It's been a long time since I watched it. He was one of my favorite characters on television for a long time. I really like Scrubs. And I miss it. I do. I miss Scrubs a lot. Taki75 writes, John, you totally misunderstood my post about Fox wanting to make Civil War in 2010. They didn't want to be part of the MCU like you assumed. Well, okay, first of all, Taki, then that's not my fault. That's yours, brother. I can't read your mind. You got to clearly write out what it is you're saying, my brother. All right. And then Taki goes on and says, they wanted to make their own version, which would pit the X-Men against the Fantastic Four. It was all over the news last month. Yeah, and I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true. Because technically speaking, in 2010, there was nothing stopping Fox from doing that. If Fox wanted to do that, they could have done it. There's nothing stopping them. But we do know this, that after Josh Trank's Fantastic Four, sorry, let me rephrase. Prior to the release of Josh Trank's Fantastic Four, there was a lot of talk going around that they were going to now start building towards crossing over Fantastic Four with their X-Men. Now, this was obviously before the Fantastic Four came out, and long before we found out about Fox maybe getting sold and all that kind of stuff. But they were starting to put together some plans for that. They were starting to put together creative writer rooms to come up with some ideas about how they might do something like that. It never reached, obviously, like any serious advanced stage, but it was something they were investigating, something they were kind of poking around and getting some creative minds on to see if they could come up with an interesting way to do it. And doing some analysis to figure out how would that play? How would it perform with the audience? But it's something that I think goes back a long, long time. I mean, I think these are notions when you have these types of characters and you have other cinematic universes starting up and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, something went through the mind. I don't doubt that at all. Not at all, Tacky. Okay. John Henderson writes, I was listening to Batista on the Chris Jericho podcast, and he said that Disney had hired James Gunn back a long time ago, and he doesn't know why they took so long to say it publicly. Pretty interesting. Not really, John, when you think about it, because one of the things that I've been saying on the show for a long time is that a lot of the announcements we hear coming out of Hollywood, a lot of the times, they're actually decisions that had been made ages before announcements are made. Ages before announcements are made. One of the great examples of this is Ben Affleck being cast as Batman. Ben Affleck had confirmed that they actually reached an agreement and they cast Ben Affleck to play Batman 6 months before they made it public. 6 months before they let the news out that he was going to be playing Batman. And look, they made the decision that he wasn't going to be Batman anymore almost 2 years. Almost 2 years before they finally came clean and admitted to everybody that Ben Affleck wasn't going to be Batman anymore. And that's not unusual. The almost 2 years part is a little bit unusual, but like 6 months in between, because look, one of the big things about Hollywood is that they have to be aware of perception, and they want to manage the message, right? And a part of that is timing. So yeah, if once they reach that decision that they were going, I mean, I have very little doubt that the actual decision between Alan Horn and James Gunn for James Gunn to be brought back into the MCU, I had no doubt that the actual decision was made long before they made the public announcement. But that's all like managing the message. It's just business as usual in Hollywood. It's not unusual at all. It is absolutely business as usual. And they have their own reasons why. Like, they'll know their reasons why they want this to become announced at this point rather than this point. And there are reasons you and I will probably never know. But they always have very calculated reasons for how they manage the message and when they let information get out. It's calculated, it's planned, it's strategized, it's all that to get best and maximum input and best and maximum effect. So, yeah, not surprised at all. Not surprised at all. That's actually like when you hear so-and-so's been cast as such and such, decision was actually made a long time ago. That's why this thing about, it just came down. They just decided to cast Robert Pattinson. Remember? And I said, that's BS. They have made this decision a long time ago. This maybe not 6 months ago, but the decision to cast Robert Pattinson was made significantly before they made the public announcement. I don't care what anybody else says. That's how Warner Brothers operates. That's how a lot of the studios operate. So not surprised to hear about that at all, John. So good catch. All right. JB Bonifacio writes, who's raiding Area 51 with me in September? If we Naruto run, we can move faster than their bullets. Let's see them aliens, 600,000 and counting. Yeah, I'll be honest with you, JB. I mean, this is totally outside of my area of expertise. I really don't think anything significant is going to happen. The first time one soldier fires one gun in the air as a warning shot, everybody's turning around going the other way. That's just it. Why? Because finding out what it's in Area 51 is not worth getting injured over. So I really don't. I think this is going to be much ado about nothing. And that's cool if 500,000 people sign up, 600,000 people sign up. I guarantee you the majority of the people signing up are not going to be there. So it sounds cool and everything. And believe me, I'm going to be curious to see how this plays out, but I'm not expecting much to come out of it, to be honest with you. All right. Logan James Kynaston writes, what are some of your favorite directorial debuts? A few of mine are Reservoir Dogs, District 9, the Reservoir Dogs with Quentin Tarantino, District 9 with Neil Blomkamp, Gone Baby Gone with Ben Affleck did that, Get Out with Jordan Peele. Those are all great. Those are all great. I think out of that list, Gone Baby Gone would probably have to be my favorite. I think that's my favorite directorial debut was Gone Baby Gone. Again, Ben Affleck, now that we're talking about Ben Affleck. But also don't look past Bradley Cooper's Star is Born. Don't look past that one. Because that was a movie, his directorial debut, and it got a lot of Academy Award nominations, that film, including, if I'm not mistaken, Best Picture of the Year. So that's a pretty good one, too. But still, out of the list, I'm going to go with Gone Baby Gone. That's a good list, Logan. Justin McFarlane writes, Midsommar was boring, not scary, and predictable. See, that's the thing. I was told everything about Midsommar. But it's a very polarizing film because I'm getting a number of people, Justin, telling me boring, it's garbage, blah, blah, blah. But I'm also getting, like on yesterday's John Campea Show, I had a couple people write in saying, John, Midsommar is awesome. It's great. So I'm hearing a lot of very mixed messages from you guys, the ones who have seen the movie. So I think if I have time tomorrow night, because we don't have our Dungeons and Dragons group this week because some of the people in our group are traveling. So since we're not playing Dungeons and Dragons tomorrow night, I might finally run out and go watch it and see what everybody's talking about, because a lot of people are saying they like it, a lot of people saying they don't like it. Roman Bryant writes, the way I feel about Iron Spider is the way George Lucas feels about the holiday special. Yes, the holiday special. And just to be clear on this, a lot of people, they hear me talk about the Iron Spider stuff, and I hate the Iron Spider stuff. I don't like making Spider-Man Iron Man Jr. Spider-Man does not need a techno suit. Spider-Man is Spider-Man. He has the strength of the gods. He has the speed of the gods. He has this magical spider sense. He is just one of the coolest comic book characters ever. And they didn't need to give him an Iron Man suit with a different, a different wrap put on it to make it look like Spider-Man. Because they gave him an Iron Man suit. It's an Iron Man suit. That's all it is. that's painted to look like a Spider-Man suit, but it's an Iron Man suit. And I don't like that. Now, people misunderstand when I say that as if I'm saying I don't like the new Spider-Man. That's not true. I still love the new Spider-Man. I think Tom Holland is great as Spider-Man. I dig Spider-Man. It's just that when that one thing comes up, that's something I don't like. That's one thing about it I don't like, right? So, yeah, I love the new Spider-Man. I just don't like that aspect, and I never will. Paths Unwritten writes, the Soul Stone is Hawkeye's. Why can Hulk use it? Yeah, that's been a question that's come up a few times. Like, if you have to go through this big song and dance of sacrificing someone you love in order to get the Soul Stone, and in order to be able to wield the Soul Stone, how can somebody else just pick up the Soul Stone, even if it's put into a gauntlet, and just use it? Hulk didn't have to sacrifice anybody. Hulk didn't have to do anything. So is there a difference in the rules that says acquiring the Soul Stone versus, it's in the gauntlet? Or maybe it's just that you can't find the Soul Stone unless you sacrifice something. Like, it won't even be revealed to you unless you find it. But now that it's revealed and we've got it, maybe it can be passed around. So, good question. I'm not sure what the answer to that is, though. Daniel Weiss writes, on Amazon Prime, there is a 70s game show called Card Sharks. Dude, I haven't seen that on Amazon Prime. But when I was a kid, that would play on reruns, and I used to watch Card Sharks on reruns as a little kid. Like in the 80s, when I was a kid, I'd come home from school for lunch. Card Sharks. I'd watch the Flintstones, and I'd watch Card Sharks on reruns on television. Anyway, there's a game show called Card Sharks. It's basically just your over-under game in a game show format. It made me think of you. Yeah, I used to dig that show. I mean, it's totally overly simplistic by today's standards, but I used to dig it when I was a kid. Man, and it's on Amazon Prime. Thank you for pointing that out, Daniel. I'm probably going to have to go and check it out and relive a little bit of nostalgia. Okay, let me see. Where are we at here? We're at Tristan Thorpe, who writes, in regards to my super chat on Gyllenhaal, I have seen Nightcrawler, and you're right, he's amazing. I'm starting to appreciate him more now. Unfortunately, Tristan, I don't know which super chat you're talking about. You gotta be a little bit more specific. But just taking what you're talking about, yeah, he's sick good in Nightcrawler. And I don't even think he got... Did he get an Academy Award? I'm thinking he didn't get... I'm thinking he didn't get an Academy Award nomination for that. Let me just double check. I don't know that he's ever gotten an Academy Award nomination. Okay, here we go. He did, sorry, I knew about this one. He did get nominated for an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for Brokeback Mountain, but he didn't even get a nomination for Nightcrawler. And if I remember correctly, that was a stacked year. Let me just look this up here. In the 2014... 2000, I believe it was the 2014 Academy Awards that he would have been nominated for that. Let me just try this again. Oh, it might have been the 2015 Academy Awards, actually. Let me see if I can look it up here. Okay. So here we go. It did get nominated for Best Screenplay. It got nominated for Best Screenplay. But here was the nominees for Best Actor that year that he got that he was in Nightcrawler. And that a lot of people are like, how did he not get nominated? Listen to this. Steve Carell in Foxcatcher. He was awesome in that. Bradley Cooper in American Sniper. He was awesome in that. Benedict Cumberbatch in The Imitation Game. A lot of people feel like he should have won for that. Michael Keaton in Birdman. A lot of people thought he should have won for that. And the ultimate winner was Eddie Redmayne for The Theory of Everything, and a lot of people were very comfortable that he won for that. So those were your nominees. It's tough. It's tough because in almost any other year, Jake Gyllenhaal gets a Best Actor nomination for his role in Nightcrawler. Almost any other year. There are probably a couple of years that he might have even won Best Actor for Nightcrawler. But it was a stacked year, man. Man, that was a stacked year. Anyway, okay, Tristan follows up and writes, I've been following you since the AMC days. In fact, the first video that made me follow you was your thoughts on Tom Welling shouldn't play Superman for Man of Steel. That goes back a ways. I still remember that. That was one of the first things that I got a lot of people mad at me for. But because you remember, before all this, like when they were making Superman Returns, okay? When they were making Superman Returns with Brandon Routh, a lot before they announced Brandon Routh, a lot of people were insisting that Tom Welling should be Superman because he's Kal-El in Smallville. And my argument, even for Superman Returns, was always, this is Superman. It's not Smallville the movie. And Smallville isn't Superman. Smallville isn't a very taking a lot of liberties Elseworld version of Superman, but it's not Superman. By a long stretch, it's an Elseworlds version of Superman, but it ain't Superman. And Smallville's great. I like Smallville for what it is. I like it very much, but it's not Superman. And I like Tom Welling as Clark very much, but it's not the real Clark Kent. So I remember back even in the Superman Returns days, I was the argument, no, you should not make Tom Welling Superman. This is Superman, not Smallville the movie. Well, then when Man of Steel was coming out, the exact same discussions popped up again. People were, only Tom Welling can be Superman. And again, I love Smallville. I love Tom Welling. I loved him in Lucifer, by the way. Tom Welling is a regular in Lucifer season 3, and I love seeing him in that. Anyway, but to me, it's like, no, he's not Superman. He is Clark from Smallville. But again, this is not Smallville the movie. This is Man of Steel. And yeah, I remember that. That's one of the biggest, more, kind of controversial things. Because I got a lot of people mad at me when I said that, but it is what I believed. And I think it was the right move not to go that way. Anyway, Tristan Thorpe follows up with, also, Man of Steel holds a very special place for me. I've grown up loving the genre, thanks Dad, and read a few comics here and there, but never collected. Then came Man of Steel, then I've been collecting digitally. You know what? It's you're not alone, Tristan. I've had a lot of people tell me that, in theory, the idea is you do comic book movies because there's a bunch of comic book fans, and if we make comic book movies, those comic book fans will come out and watch the movies, right? Well, in the last 8 years, it's been really the opposite. People aren't starting as comic book fans and then becoming comic book movie fans. A lot of people are starting now as comic book movie fans and then going on and getting interested in comic books then, and then going and picking up comics. So it's actually been going in the complete reverse. So I've got a lot of people, Tristan, just like you, telling me that, man, you know what? I don't know, pick your movie. I saw Guardians of the Galaxy and I went out and bought my first comic book. Or I saw the first Avengers movie and I went out and bought a couple of comic books for the first time in 20 years. Or I saw Ant-Man. It was so fun. I went out and bought, comic books for the first time in 10 years, whatever. It just really started that trend, and it's a great thing. And by the way, I'm the same. When I come out of a comic book movie I love, one of the first things I do is I grab my tablet, open up Comixology, and I go and buy a couple of digital comics because I'm just motivated to read a couple more at that point. So you are not alone, Tristan. You are not alone. All right. And then Tristan follows that up with, and you'd think for someone whose favorite comic book character is Batman, you'd think one of those movies would have made me want to collect comics. You know what? I've got a theory about that. Because if Batman is already your favorite character, then seeing him on screen probably doesn't expand your world. It's just really finding the perfect spot in your world. But then when you go and watch another comic book movie that's outside of what's your favorite, that opens up your mind a little bit more. And suddenly now you're more interested in going out and picking up more stuff. So it's interesting, but I don't think it's actually all that strange, Tristan, what you experience, because I actually think that makes a lot of sense. Anyway, good on you for getting more into some comic books on their own. All right. Wesley Cunningham writes, Midsommar, not really scary, just one of those movies that made me go from interesting to okay weird to that's effed up to that's way effed up to by the time the credits roll, I need Jesus. Again, I have not seen the film. I just had a friend of mine who did see it walk me through the entire movie and tell me what happens. And it's That's exactly kind of the way, Wesley, my mind was going as he's explaining step by step the movie. It's like, okay, that's interesting. Okay, that's weird. Okay, that's okay, well, that's really effed up. And, you know, he was telling me because he saw it at a press screening. It's Chris Gore. He saw it at a press screening. And he's saying in his press screening, the thing that happens about 45 minutes to an hour into the movie, he said about 9-10 people in the theater just got up and left. So that is something that I'm hearing a lot of, Wesley. It's something I'm hearing a lot of, but I gotta actually see it for myself. I gotta get it in front of my actual eyeballs and see it for myself and see how that all plays out. Okay, let's move on here. Jesse Lopez writes, if we're going to wait a long while for the Fantastic Four to show up in the MCU, do you think they're going to make Noah Hawley wait on a Doctor Doom movie despite being in talks with Kevin Feige? That was never a thing, Jesse. That was never a real thing. Kevin Feige probably has conversations with thousands of people about thousands of different things. See, this goes back a number of years. Noah Hawley, who is the guy behind Legion, the television show Legion, he got working. They announced at Comic-Con a couple of years ago that he was going to do a Doctor Doom movie for Fox. Well, that's obviously no longer on the table. But he mentioned that Kevin Feige just had a conversation with him once and just asked him, hey, you still working on a Doctor Doom script? That's all he asked him. And it never went. And Noah Hawley went on to say that we've never talked about it again since. So I don't really know that there's anything to see here. And I think, you know, what is natural, Jesse, for a lot of film fans is that we hear talks about something and we just assume that that's going to happen. The reality is, for every 1,000 of those conversations, 1 out of every 1,000 of those actually starts to go into development. Into development means a script, there's a commission to get a script written and all that kind of stuff. Then about 1 out of every 100 films that goes into actual development will ever actually get greenlit to actually be turned into a movie. So, you know, and it's understandable. People see a news headline that Noah Hawley had a conversation about with Kevin Feige, I almost said Kevin Smith, with Kevin Feige about doing a Doctor Doom movie. And what a lot of film fans naturally assume is, so there's going to be a Doctor Doom movie. When really, that's not necessarily the case. So the real answer to that is, we don't know that there's ever going to be a Doctor Doom movie. At least not this one that was being worked on by Noah Hawley. Although it's still possible. It very well is still possible. But I can guarantee you the first thing Kevin Feige is going to do with all the new X-Men and Fantastic Four characters is not a Doctor Doom movie. That's not going to be the first thing out of the gate. And Kevin Feige's already said we are years away from seeing the implementation of any Fantastic Four or X-Men stuff in their universe. So if Noah Hawley's Doctor Doom ever gets made, and that's a huge if, I'm not even really sure that's going to happen. It could, though. It could. But if it does, it's still going to be years away. Still going to be years away. All right. Evelyn writes, where are we at here? There we are. After watching Stranger Things, I thought if Tarantino ever wants to do a Bride prequel, he has Maya Hawke right there. It will never happen, but still, yeah. The way you decide how to make a movie is not, oh, there's an actress who's the daughter of the other actress. Let's make a movie around that. That is never a smart thing. Never a smart thing. But for argument's sake, if Tarantino did decide he wanted to do something like that, then you're right. But then again, I don't know if she can act. The only thing I've ever seen, the girl who plays Robin, who is Uma Thurman's and Ethan Hawke's daughter in Stranger Things Season 3, the only thing, I've only ever seen her in that. Now, I've heard she's done 1 or 2 other things, but I haven't seen those. And I try not to decide if a person's a great actor or performer or not after just seeing them in one role, because you never know. You never know. But again, if Tarantino already had that in his mind, you're right. There's somebody right there he could look at easily. Evelyn then follows up with, also, I can't get Never Ending Story out of my head. Absolutely agree. Yep. Never Ending Story. Like, I'm not going to give away anything here, but the way Never Ending Story gets played in Stranger Things Season 3 is pretty damn, it's got a big hook. It gets into your brain and it's hard to get it out. And I completely agree with you, Evelyn. All right. Let's see. BW Rosa writes, what is the most anticipated news you expect to come out of San Diego Comic-Con? Also, what are your thoughts on countries getting early TV releases before the U.S.? One question at a time, BW. We're going to go with what am I expecting to get out of San Diego Comic-Con? I think what most people are kind of anxious to hear is an official lineup for Eternals. Because we're hearing a lot of rumors, right? We know Angelina Jolie is going to be there. But then there are a bunch of other names that, like Kumail Nanjiani apparently is going to be in it. But like John Wick's name's been thrown around. Is that actually going to happen? Who else is going to be in there? Are they going to talk about Shang-Chi? If so, do they have more casting to announce for that? Are they going to give official dates for Doctor Strange 2 and Black Panther 2? Basically, I think the big thing is going to be coming around that Saturday Hall H presentation by Marvel. And what are they going to reveal? And I think that's the big thing. I think there could be a lot of other interesting stuff, but I think that is the big thing that most people are most excited about and most anticipating hearing about. Okay, BW Rosa follows up with, what meant by that is when series go on hiatus. Thoughts on countries getting early TV releases before the U.S. What I meant by that is when series go on hiatus. I'll be honest with you, BW, I don't know what it is you're asking. Getting early TV releases before the U.S. when series go on hiatus. I'm not quite sure what it is you're asking. So I apologize, man. I'm just not putting it together in my head. Sorry about that, dude. Let's see here. Michael Jones, who sends in a really big super chat. Thank you, Michael, for supporting the channel on that level. I appreciate it, man. Michael Jones writes, wife and I stayed home last night to start watching Stranger Things 3, stayed up till 4 a.m. and binged the whole thing. Today, we are both singing Never Ending Story. Any news about season 4? Well, listen, Michael, me and Ann were the same way, except we didn't stay up till 4 in the morning. We started watching season 3 earlier in the day, and we binged the entire season in one day. Which, you know, when it's like 10 episodes, 9, whatever, however many episodes it was, that's not terribly difficult to do. But we binged it all in one day as well. And yep, Never Ending Story is still stuck in my head. As far as news about season 4, we've heard the brothers, the guys who are the showrunners, talk about, you know, certain ideas they have for season 4. I mean, you can just find that on Google. They've talked a little bit about it. But I have still not seen Netflix make an official announcement that season 4 has been greenlit. Now, Robert and I talked about this on the show the other day because Netflix has been cancel happy recently. They've been canceling a lot of stuff, particularly like after season 3, they cancel a lot of stuff. Because after the 3rd season, it starts getting more expensive to make, and Netflix needs to be a little bit more budget conscious these days. So, Rob thinks that Netflix is going to cancel Stranger Things. He does. And you know what? Considering I don't believe Netflix has officially stated that they're renewing Netflix for season 4. I don't think that's happened yet. I think that's a possibility. Now, I don't think they will. I think it's possible they may cancel, but I don't think they will. But here's the rub, though. Even if Netflix cancels Stranger Things season 4 and they cancel Stranger Things after season 3, even if that happens, I guarantee you Stranger Things season 4 will still happen just on another network. Whether that other network is Amazon Prime or Hulu or Disney Plus steps in and says, we're going to make you a Disney original. Or maybe they go to a traditional network. Maybe they go to an FX. Maybe they go to, I don't know, something else like that. I guarantee you there will be a Stranger Things season 4. The only thing I'm not 100% sure of is if it'll be on Netflix or not. So that's going to be an interesting thing for us to keep our eyes on. But a season 4 will happen, but not a lot of details out there just yet. So we'll have to wait and see how that all transpires, Michael. Again, thanks for sending that in, dude. I appreciate it. All right. QS Hicks writes, well played, Feige. Make a Spider-Man so inextricably linked to Tony and the MCU that live Sony-led reboot of the character would be confusing. Oh, I disagree. There's a couple things you got to understand here, QS. Sony signed off on that. And Sony isn't going to screw themselves. Like, remember, a lot of people still think Marvel had all the control over making the Spider-Man movies. No, they didn't. Sony has the ultimate veto hammer. Now, they let Feige just go and do for the most part, but there's a lot of stories about how they stepped in and wanted changes made, and the changes got made, and I think that made for a better film, to be honest with you. But everything that happened in Spider-Man, Homecoming and Far From Home, and in Civil War, and everything that happens with Spider-Man in the MCU, Sony has to give their approval of. Sony has to give their approval of. So it's not just Feige did that. That was Sony agreeing to it. Sony looked at it. Yep, that's not a problem. Go ahead and do that. And no, I really don't. I think once you reboot Spider-Man, no one's going to be confused. No one's going to be confused. Like when they made Homecoming, people didn't go, well, wait a minute, where's Emma Stone's Gwen Stacy? I can't handle this. My mind's falling apart, you know? People didn't do that. Once they reboot, people are fine. And I think if Sony ever wanted to take him back, and by the way, Sony wants to keep him in the MCU. Sony wants to keep Spider-Man in the MCU. They're making too much money off him there, and they're making money off their own films in their own universe. And they're winning Academy Awards for their own films in the Sonyverse. So this is exactly where Sony wants to be. Sony, everything, you know, and to quote the Emperor, everything is going as I have foreseen it. Like Sony wants everything to happen exactly the way it's happening right now. Everything is coming up Sony right now for them. But if for whatever reason, Marvel and Sony fail to re-up their deal over the next couple of years, and Sony takes Spider-Man back and they reboot him, it won't be a problem. It won't be a problem. And then they'll either make a bad Spider-Man movie like Spider-Man 3 or The Amazing Spider-Man 2, or they'll make one of the all-time great comic book movies like Spider-Man 2 or Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Like, it'll just happen. But wait a minute, I thought he was like best friends with Tony Stark. No, once you reboot, the audience will get it. That won't cause a lot of confusion. That won't be an issue, QS. I guarantee you that won't be an issue. But again, we don't have to worry about it because Sony wants him in the MCU right now, and everything is going as they have foreseen it. So it's perfect. Everything is perfect for them. All right. Willow Yang writes, I cracked up yesterday when you called the head-on shrimp scary shrimp. My parents used to tell me that eating the eyes will improve my own eyesight. Yeah, look, you got to understand, okay? When I think shrimp, I think the little, breaded things that are in with my fried rice. That's what I think when I think of shrimp. At the worst, I think of shrimp cocktail shrimp, right? Where you just grab it by the tail and bite it. I remember Ann took me to this more authentic Asian restaurant once. And I saw something, shrimp with whatever. Okay, sure, that looks like something I can eat. And this thing comes out with all of its legs and its eyes looking at me, like I'm like, F this. Just straight up F this. I am not touching that, creature from the 8th dimension. I am not touching that. Get this the F away from me. That's me. That's how advanced my palate is. It's like, nope. If something on my plate is looking at me, take it away. That's just simply me, Willow. That is just simply me. Andres Martinez writes, better McConaughey performance, Mud or Interstellar? I'll tell you what, I think both the better movie and the better performance, well, Interstellar's great and McConaughey is fantastic in it. I think the better movie and the better performance were actually both Mud. And a lot of people haven't watched that. But it is one of the films that makes you go, whoa, this dude really, it's not just hype. This dude is so good. When he's on his game, McConaughey is so good, and I think Mud is the pick out of that. That's just my opinion, though. All right, Andres Martinez writes, that was Andres Martinez. QS Hicks writes, Celestials made Eternals, Deviants, and Mutants. Over under 35%. Mutants are mentioned in the Eternals. I'm going to take under 35%. Only because, look, I think it's possible. But there's two things you got to keep in mind, QS. That just because something happened a certain way in the comics doesn't mean anything about the movies at all. The movies, particularly the MCU, will vastly deviate from continuity in the comics for the sake of making the movie the best it can be. And that's worked out very well for them. But yeah, just because something happens a certain way in the comics means nothing. Doesn't mean anything. Maybe they'll follow it in the movies, but quite possibly they won't. So that really doesn't mean anything. The other thing, again, is Feige saying that they were years away from that. But I'll take the under 35%, but it's not like 1% or 2% either, because now we are into it. You could, if Kevin Feige wanted to, he could drop a vague reference to mutants if they wanted to, a reference that's vague enough that it doesn't tie his hands for what he might want to do later down the road. So it's possible. It is possible. But overall, I will take under 35%. But let's not fall out of our chairs from shock if they actually do it. But I think it's highly unlikely. All right. Shelley Belly writes, John Campea, what I love about your show is that you talk with us and not at us. It's very interactive. It sets you apart from other YouTubers. Well, I don't know. I think there are other YouTubers who do it quite well as well. You know, here's the thing. I've had a lot of people that I've worked with over the years, from AMC and the other place that I worked at and whatever. A lot of them who are great on camera have often asked me, how can you possibly do a show by yourself? How do you do that? Because, I mean, there are some of the best out there that can't fathom how to do, you know, an hour or 2 hour show by themselves. And what I always tell them is, I literally look at the camera. I'm able to throw a switch in my head. It ain't talent. Believe me, it ain't talent. It's just that I'm able to throw a switch in my head. It says, this camera is 10 friends of mine. The camera I'm looking at is actually 10 friends of mine. And I'm just talking to 10 friends of mine. And it's a lot easier to talk when you feel like you're in a conversation than it is to feel like when you're giving a presentation. Because when you're trying to give a presentation, that becomes really hard to how do you possibly even fathom talking for more than 10 minutes. But when you feel like you're talking in a conversation, you're talking to your buddies, then you could talk all day. Then you can just talk all day. So it's a matter that, and a lot of people, I don't know why, it's just the way I'm wired. It makes me good at some things. It makes me bad at other things. But the way I'm wired is that that mental switch is just a very easy switch for me. Like when I see the camera, I feel like I'm looking at everybody else watching the show, and we're all just sitting here hanging out, acting like a bunch of jackasses, throwing around our wild theories and saying whatever it is we want to talk about, right? So I kind of picture it like I'm having a conversation. And it just kind of comes naturally to me. Again, the way I'm wired makes certain things easier for me, like this. And the way I'm wired makes me bad at other things. But that's the great balance of life. It's the circle of life, my friends. It's the circle of life. But thank you for saying such a kind thing, Shelley. I really appreciate that. All right, Shelley follows up with and writes, what scenes are you in the Hulk can't find you? It is tricky, but I have had people write me. Yeah, a number of you guys have found me and sent screenshots to me of where you found me in Hulk. I'm actually in a couple of shots, but it's like finding Waldo. It's tough to find me, but there are a couple of you guys have already sent me screenshots to find me. So I don't want to give it away. If you can find it, you can find it, and send me a screenshot of it if you can. Okay, where are we at now? We're at Colby Harris, who writes, could a modern reboot of Flash Gordon work today? Well, they're already working on it. Are they not? Let me just double check this. I believe there was just a story the other week that they are indeed working on a Flash Gordon. I know it's going back to the live stage. Oh yeah, well then there's a Taika Waititi is attached to direct an animated Flash Gordon. I don't know, to be honest with you. Like, there's two different answers to that. On the one hand, could a Flash Gordon, the way he was done back in my grandfather's day, could that work today? Don't know about that. No, probably not. However, could you take the concept of Flash Gordon and rework it with more modern sensibilities and a fresher script and all that kind of stuff? And could that work? And the answer to that is yes. Because anything can work. Felipe the Sentient Dancing Microphone can work. A movie about plastic building blocks, the Lego movie, can work. If you get the script right, you rewrite it properly, you take that concept, you do it with more modern sensibilities, yes, it can work. A straight up, redux of the old Flash Gordon, maybe not, but I've got a feeling there would be some heavy adaptation if they did something. Chris Feldman writes, have you ever seen Once? Very charming movie. Oh, I have. Yeah, it is charming. Won Academy Award, too. Chris Feldman writes, better effects, Lion King or last hour of Endgame? It's tricky because Lion King is an animated film. Lion King's an animated movie. It's an animated movie. So it's hard to think of animated movies as effects, right? Because it's an animated movie. Like when you don't think of visual effects when you think of Toy Story 4. because Toy Story 4 is an animated movie. Lion King is an animated movie. It's not a live action movie. It's an animated movie. So it's hard to think about that. And I'll be straight up with you. While some of the effects in Endgame are great, I don't think Endgame has the best. Quite frankly, I thought Infinity War had better effects than Endgame did. That's just me. So it's a tough one. That's tough to answer. Let's see. Josh Bing writes, I like how Far From Home shows that even after he's gone, Tony Stark continues to live on in the MCU through his actions and legacy as Iron Man. Yeah, and I mean, obviously we can't go into it too much. I mean, that is something that they kind of show in the trailers, that the Tony Stark presence is very much there. Hence, inextricably, Marvel doubles down in Far From Home and making Spider-Man Iron Man Jr. They really do. But yeah, they show that a lot. I'll be honest with you, though. I was a little turned off by how much there was for Iron Man and nothing for Captain America. Like, Captain America is the first Avenger. He saved the world multiple times. He is the greatest hero the world ever had. And there's just all this stuff for this rich dude, Tony Stark, and like nothing in the film other than a quick, picture and a montage. There's nothing for Captain America. That started to turn me off. Now, granted, I've got a dog in that race because my favorite character in the MCU is Captain America. So I'm a little bit biased there. Clearly, I admit that. But yeah, it was great seeing the homage being paid to the fallen Avenger Iron Man throughout the movie, but it did kind of piss me off and turn me off that all of that for one of them, but nothing for the greatest hero in the Avengers, which is Captain America. I know, that just kind of bothered me. Anyway, Uncharted Halo sends in a really large super chat. Thank you for that, Uncharted. I appreciate you supporting the channel at that level, man. Thank you very much. Uncharted Halo writes, hey, John, I always wonder, if Disney did not buy Fox, do you think Fox would have attempted another Fantastic Four reboot? I personally think it would have been foolish of them to let that IP revert back to Marvel. Absolutely, they were. Why am I freezing on his name, who just directed X-Men Days of Future Past, or not X-Men Dark Phoenix, Simon Kinberg. Simon Kinberg, who also produced those films, he said, before we ever heard about the Fox takeover, the Disney takeover of Fox, Simon Kinberg said publicly, we're going to make another Fantastic Four movie. We are going to make another Fantastic Four movie. Now, whether that would have been a reboot or whether they just would have taken the same cast and say, we're going to take another shot at this with this cast, we think we can do better, I don't know. But they were very clear that they were going to do another Fantastic Four movie. There was no way they were going to just let it go for nothing back to Disney. They weren't going to do that. It still had too much potential. Even though every time it's funny, I don't get it. Fox was great at making comic book movies. Because for every, Spider-Man 3 or Fantastic Four, they had, X-Men, X-Men 2, Deadpool, Logan, X-Men Days of Future Past, First Class. Spider-Man 2, the first Spider-Man, the first Amazing Spider-Man, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Yeah, they made a couple of bad ones. They made a couple of really bad ones. But they also made some of the best comic book movies ever made. And it was always amazing to me that no matter what success they had with Logan or Deadpool or the X-Men or Spider-Man or Spider-Man, sorry, that Spider-Man was Sony. Sorry about that. But with all the success they had with Logan and Deadpool and the many great X-Men films, they just couldn't, for the life of them, crack the code of Fantastic Four. They just couldn't do it. Like, and not only could they not crack the code to make a great one, they were constantly bad. Like, bad. And I just don't know how a studio that can make so many other really great comic book films just couldn't figure out Fantastic Four. And who knows, maybe fourth time would have been the charm. But yes, Uncharted, the plans were in place. It's been made public. Simon Kinberg said it outwardly that they were going to make another Fantastic Four movie. Would it have been their fourth terrible movie? Would fourth time been a charm? We'll never know. But they were going to make another one, my friend. All right, thanks for the question, Uncharted. All right, Orange Hand writes, It was odd hearing you say it's fine if people don't judge a film on its own merits, since you often say we should leave our expectations at the door. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Look, to me, whenever you're getting a reboot or a sequel or whatever, you should judge a film on its own merits. Don't judge a film in relation to another film. Just look at the film on its own merits. Is it good or is it not good? That's my approach. And I believe you should go to a movie theater. It's cool to have, predictions. It's cool to have expectations. But once you get to the actual movie theater and you're about to walk through that door, you need to take all those expectations, those preconceived ideas, those pre-existing expectations, and you need to leave them outside. And you need to go into a theater and just watch the movie on its own merits and evaluate it as such. That's how I feel. I'm not going to condemn anybody, though, if that's not how they choose to approach it. I'm like, look, you want to judge a movie based, a reboot based on the previous version? That's perfectly fine. That's up to you. If that's how you want to do it, that you do you. I don't think it's the right way to do it. I don't think you're doing yourself any favors by evaluating a film that way. I don't think you're doing the film any favors by evaluating a film that way. I don't think you're doing your viewers or audience members or your readers any favors by evaluating a film that way. But if that's how you do it, then you do you. And I'm not going to condemn anybody from that. And I'm not going to harp on anybody for that. I don't think that's the right way to go. I think the right way to go is to judge a film based on its own merits, leave your expectations out the door and go in. But hey, if you've got your own way of looking at films and evaluate them, that's fine. You do you. I don't think it's the right way, but it is whatever. So that's exactly what I meant by that, Orange Hand. Anyway, fair for you to bring it up, though. All right, Jay Bling writes, Professor Hulk ordering in a diner, give me all the bacon and eggs you have, you can fill in the rest. Well, I mean, it's not Hulk, but it's Ron Swanson. Excuse me, son. I'm afraid you misunderstood me. I'm afraid you heard me say, bring me a lot of bacon and eggs. What I want you to do is bring me all your eggs and bacon. Ron Swanson, ladies and gentlemen. Ron Swanson, one of my favorite characters on television. Andres Martinez writes, one does not simply walk into Mordor. Again, one of my favorite characters, probably my favorite character in Lord of the Rings, Boromir. Because his is the best redemption story, I think, in all of literature. The Boromir redemption arc, to me, is one of the great stories in literature. And I love Boromir, and Sean Bean played him brilliantly. I love that line. Andres follows up with, any names that you'd like for your future children? Yes. Anne and I have already picked the name of our first child. And whether it's a boy or a girl, I'm just trying to decide whether I should share it or not. I want to share it because it's really cool. My mother will hate it, I think. I think most of you will hate it, and that's fine. I don't care. But I think boy or girl, and I'm not making an announcement that Anne's pregnant, by the way. We've just talked about this, that I think boy or girl, I think we've settled on our first kid's name, and I think it's going to be Skywalker. I think Skywalker is going to be our first kid's name. So you can laugh at me all you want. That's a name that has a lot of deep meaning to me. If it's a boy, I'll probably make the middle name Giovanni or John after my grandfather, who I am named after. If it's a girl, either Santina, which is my grandmother, maybe Helen, which is my other grandmother, maybe Susan, like my mother, or maybe Anna after Anne's mom. Or we'll work out middle names at some point, but I think Skywalker might be it. Anyway, KW Garrett 83 writes, where are we at here? Hold a second here. There we go. Okay. Where do we go? There we are. KW Garrett 83 writes, a common complaint I see from critics regarding Lion King is that CG lions can't show emotion on their faces, so dialogue came out flat. Did you have this issue? Nope, not at all. Dialogue did not come out flat. That's straight up some F-upped BS. Dialogue was not flat. Now, look, it's all subjective. If somebody watched the movie and that was their experience, to them it hit them as being flat, so be it. I mean, that's the subjective nature of film, and I got to accept that. And I do accept that. I don't understand it, but I accept it. But to me, not at all. I thought especially like the kid who does Simba, Chiwetel Ejiofor as Scar was fantastic. I thought, Billy Eichner and John Oliver and Seth Rogen, I don't know what. Look, again, that's the beauty of film, is the subjective nature on it, but I think that's some straight up BS, because I thought the dialogue does not come across as flat at all. But that's just me. That's just me. Other people saw it, had a different interpretation of it. That's perfectly fine. Their opinions is no less valid than mine. But if you're asking me, I think that's some straight up effed up BS, because I do not feel like the lines came out flat at all. But anyway, that's just me. All right. ZOMG Ruler writes, over under 6%, Lion King beats Harry Potter's Deathly Hallows 169 million on July. I don't know. I mean, if the reviews had been stronger, I would have said easily it would beat that $169 million mark opening weekend. Easily would have beat it. With the reviews being as they are, I'm not sure. I will take over 60%, but I would have taken under 70%. Let's put it that way. I would have taken under 70%. All right. MZod780 writes, John, my wife smacked for going to Florida without her. I think you mean me. John, my wife smacked me for going to Florida without her in her dream. Has Anne ever hit you for something you might have done wrong in her dream? Dude, I'll tell you what, one of the funniest things I've ever heard. Look, I think Ray Romano is funny, but he's not one of my top 5 favorite comedians, but I like Ray Romano. But I listened to one of Ray Romano's comedy specials once where he talked about, this is the thing about women. They will get angry at you for something you did in their dream. And my wife will wake up pissed off at me for something that I did in her dream. And I remember I almost had to pull over. I was listening to it in my car. I almost had to pull over the car. I was laughing so hard because it's totally true. It's totally true. And not just Anne. There have been, prior to Anne, other women I've been in a relationship with, wake up the next morning and it's like they'd be pissed off at me for something I kid you not, one girl I was dating for a long time, woke up one day, pissed off at me all day because she caught me with her best friend in her dream. In her dream, she dreamt catching me with her best friend. And she was just pissed at me all day. All day. I couldn't win all day. And now I'm just like, man, imagine if she really caught me with her best friend. I'm just kidding. That never happened. But seriously, it was all day completely pissed off at me. And yes, Anne has never hit me for doing anything like that. But Anne has woken up in a mood at me for certain things because of something that happened in her dream. And yep, MZod, that happens. That's real life, my friends. That's some real life. All right, Chris Feldman writes, I think Marissa Tomei is a great actress. Absolutely, she's an Academy Award-winning actress. But it's odd to me her Oscar-winning role was My Cousin Vinny versus The Wrestler or In the Bedroom. Do you? No, her performance in My Cousin Vinny was fantastic. I love her in that. Look, I thought she was really strong in The Wrestler as well, but honestly, I didn't pick her to win that. I didn't pick her for win for that. I thought she was very strong for that, but I loved her in My Cousin Vinny. So, I'm totally good with it, man. I'm totally good with her having her reward for that. All right. Chris Feldman writes, think actors care which roles they win awards for? I'm sure some do. I think at the end of the day, they're just happy. Look, I think at the end of the day, Marissa Tomei is probably just super thrilled she's got that Academy Award on her mantle. That's good enough for her. That's absolutely good enough for her. I don't think she minds that. Man, I wish I'd won this for this other movie instead. No, I think she's probably just glad she's got it. Ooh, pardon me. Eduardo O'Neill writes, I was born in 97. My dad showed me Star Wars as a kid, but I didn't know about special editions. I think I've only seen the originals, but how can I tell? It's simple. This is how you can tell. In your version of Star Wars, the original Star Wars, A New Hope, was Jabba the Hutt in it. If Jabba the Hutt was in it, then you're watching the special editions, because Jabba the Hutt was not in the original editions of Star Wars. So that's the simplest, easy way to tell. Was Jabba the Hutt in the movie you watched? If he was, it's the special editions. Not Return of the Jedi. But the first Star Wars movie, New Hope, if you had Jabba in that movie, you're watching special editions. Good question, though, Eduardo. Owen Curtis writes, terms like Best Picture or Best Actor are antithetical to the nature of art, in my opinion. Nice to see art celebrated, but competition should be left to sports. No, not necessarily. Because even in sports, there's art, and it's competitively judged. Gymnastics. Gymnastics is art. And gymnastics is then judged. A bunch of people sit down, have their own opinions about how well that was executed or how well that performance came off or whatever, and they have to give it a score. Synchronized swimming is judged. And yet it is still competitive. Pie baking contest has to be judged. It's a different thing. Different people. Look, somebody puts takes a spicy burrito and takes a bite of a spicy burrito and they love it. It's like, oh, it's got that right amount of heat. I take a bite of a spicy burrito. I'm running for the bathroom. I'm screaming at the top of my lungs. I'm swearing in 3 different languages, blah, blah, blah. It's a horrible experience for me. But, pie, that's it. It's judged, In art, there's nothing wrong in art of fellow artists gathering around a group of your peers. This is why I don't like fan voted stuff, because that's BS. I don't give any credibility to fan voted awards, because now you're letting people vote who saw 5 movies this year, and 2 of them were Twilight movies. So no, but for things like the Academy Awards or the SAG Awards or things like that, where it's your peers, your fellow artists gather together and they want to celebrate excellence and they want to crown somebody that year, I think it's great. Again, it's still subjective, even though it's fellow artists doing it, but I think it's great. I would hate for them to take gymnastics out of the Olympics. I would hate for them to take, so yeah, I think it's wonderful. As long as it's being done by your peers, as long as it's other artists, other producers, directors, writers, cinematographers, designers, actors, musicians, all that kind, as long as it's as your peers in the film industry who gather together to celebrate that stuff and they want to give special recognition to best film of the year or to best performance of the year, blah, blah. It's still subjective, yes, but there's nothing wrong with that. And I think it's great. I think it's absolutely great. Eduardo O'Neill writes, have you ever told a filmmaker / actor respectfully to their face that you didn't like some content that they did? Yep. Yes, sir. I absolutely have. One of the most notorious times that I ever did that. Well, there was a couple of times. One was with Seth Rogen. And he took it well. I mean, he called me an asshole for it, but but I told him about something you did that I thought was terrible, so I didn't have hope in this thing, but this thing you just did was great, So there was that. But I've done it a couple of times, but the most notorious time that I ever did it was with a good Canadian kid, Stephen Amell, who plays Arrow in CW's Arrow, which is coming to an end. And I think he's great. I have not a bad thing to say about Stephen Amell. This is a quality dude. Good Canadian kid. Didn't have to do it at all. He took a break while shooting Arrow up in Vancouver to go to his trailer to record a birthday message for my wife once. As far as I'm concerned, one of the greatest guys in the world, forever and for always. Not a single bad thing to say about that dude. He's great. He can even wrestle. Mike, have you seen him wrestle? He can even wrestle in the WWE and wherever. He's great. He's phenomenal. He's an incredible talent. Okay. But there was this one time I had Stephen Amell come in because me, Ann, and Kaori did this Arrow after show. And he was kind enough to come down and do our Arrow after show with us. And it was during season 3. Now, if you guys have followed me for any period of time, you guys know that season 3 is what started to turn me off Arrow. The first bit of season 3 was pretty good, but then they started getting to Captain Buckles and they started doing all the stupid stuff with Laurel, and it was really turning me off. And I remember I had Steven on, and the first chunk of the show was just talking about how great the show has been. But if we got to this point where I said to Steven, because I was just speaking truth. Maybe I could have been more tactful, admittedly. But I said, I really do not like this whole new direction the show is going. And I said, as a matter of fact, I said, if they make Laurel, because it looked like they were starting to do this in a very terrible way. I say, if you guys end up making Laurel Black Canary, I think I'm going to stop watching the show. And he's like, and the Mel was like, what the hell? Like when we were doing this live on the show. It's like, what the hell? And he goes, that's harsh. And I'm like, I'm just being honest, dude. I mean, I really hate the direction you guys are going with Captain Buckles. Anyway, I didn't say Captain Buckles was a term I brought up later on. Anyway, that being said, and I was really unhappy with the direction it was going. So, yeah, I've done it a number of times, but that is probably the most nefarious time that I did it. But again, Steve Amell is a champ. He's an absolute champ. I think he's a dude whose acting was a little shaky season 1, but as you watch Arrow develop, even though I may have lost my love for the show, Stephen Amell, you can just tell, got better and better and better and better and better. And every time I went back and tried to start picking up and watching the show again, it's only because Stephen Amell was in it. He's a first-class, classy guy, a growing, developing talent who should be a star in this business. And if it wasn't for that bad Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie where he was cast as Casey, if it wasn't for that, I think he'd be a more notable movie star right now. But, for whatever reason, didn't happen. I still hope for great things for him. I really do. All right. Let's see. Jubilera writes, hey, John, everyone is talking about the Snyder cut of Justice League, but I would much rather see the Ayer cut of Suicide Squad. Unlike the Snyder cut, it probably exists. Your thoughts? # release the Ayer cut. Hey, dude, listen, I am one of the people who, while Suicide Squad is a hot mess of a movie, I still had fun with it. Like, sue me. I still walked out of the theater going, that was kind of fun. It was really dumb. It did some very, very stupid things. A number of things made no sense, whatever. But you know what? At the end of the day, there was enough fun in it to outshadow the bad stuff. And Ann and I both felt that way about it. So I appreciate it. But yes, I'll tell you what. The Ayer cut does exist because it is how they finished the film first. And then they brought in these MTV music video directors. They shifted it all up. So yeah, I do believe the Ayer cut exists. I think it was the first thing that existed. But do I want them to release the Ayer cut? No. Because what you put in theaters is what the movie is. I don't care about anything else. What you put in theaters is what that movie is. Even the ultimate, whatever they call Batman versus Superman Ultimate Edition, Supercut, whatever it is. Even though it's a little bit better than the theatrical version, I don't consider that at all. When I think of Batman versus Superman, I think of the version put into theaters. That's the cut of the movie. It is what it is. So I really don't want to see the Ayer cut either. I don't think there's any point in it because it's not the movie. It's not. What we got in theaters is the movie. So and that's kind of my thoughts on it. But it's a good observation, Jubilera. It's a very good observation. All right. Ryan Lohner writes, I love how Flash Gordon, with all of its nonsense science, is actually astrophysicist Brian May doing the music. I didn't know anything about that. I'm guessing we're talking about the animated film that Taika Waititi is doing anyway, or we're talking about an older thing. Not sure. I do not know, honestly, admitting it right up front. I don't know who astrophysicist Brian May is. I don't know if he's any good of a musician either, but that's kind of an interesting idea, Brian. All right, Chris Feldman writes, is it flattering or irritating when sites create videos based on your comments to YouTube? I saw 2 this morning about your views on Galaxy's Edge. Here's the thing. Whether they're pro or con, I have never ceased to be amazed by the fact, how do I put this? I am a fucking nobody. I'm a nobody. Let's be clear about that. I am a nobody. I'm a Canadian kid who sits in a converted spare room in my where I live. I took a second bedroom, I converted it into a little bit of a studio here, and I talk into a camera on YouTube. I'm a nobody. And I have never ceased to be amazed by how important I am in some people's minds. Pro or con, for good or for bad, for homage or for insult. I've just never been able to get over the notion that in some people's heads, like I'm some kind of important figure. That if I say something profound, they have to make a video about how profound it is. If I say something that they think is outrageous and dumb, they've got to make a video about what I thought about something. It's nutty. So I find it neither irritating. I find it neither irritating nor flattering. I just find it stunning. Because, look, we all judge things based on our own philosophies, so we're all kind of myopic that way, I guess, and I'm not an exception to that. So, like, my personal philosophy is I'm here to talk about movies. I'm not here to talk about other people's opinions about movies. You know, when I do when I go around to different conventions and I do my how to get started in YouTube, a couple things I always tell people. Number one, don't be a YouTube channel that talks about other YouTube channels. That's bottom of the barrel, desperate, kind of screaming out, you have no talent kind of thing. You don't have the ability to actually talk about things otherwise. You're the lowest common denominator. Don't do it. Don't do it. We're all going to catch ourselves doing it sometimes, but catch yourself and try to stop. I'm guilty of it. I'm guilty of it. We all will catch ourselves doing it sometimes, but don't be that. So that's what I always say during my thing. Be a YouTube channel that is talking about the thing you're passionate about, the things you love, the things you're excited about, the things that make you happy, the things that make other people happy. Be a YouTube channel that does that, whether it's about cell phones, whether it's about computers, whether it's about makeup, whether it's about cars, whether it's about movies, whether it's about television, whether it's about fashion, whether it's about world events. It doesn't matter. Be a YouTube channel that does that. Don't be a YouTube channel that talks about other YouTube channels, because to me, that's bottom common denominator. And we'll all catch ourselves doing it, because I've done it. We'll all catch ourselves doing it, but don't let it become a pattern. So in my head, I'm here to talk about the movies. I'm not here to talk about what other people think about the movies. I'm here to talk about what I love and what I think. So when people make flattering or not so flattering videos about me and my thoughts on things, all I can think about is why. I'm not irritated by it. I'm not flattered by it. I'm just like, why? I'm an effing nobody in a converted spare room with a camera in front of me talking about movies. Why am I so important to you that what I'm saying is so influential over you that you have to make part of your YouTube channel my thoughts? Who cares what I think? Make your own stuff. And you know, I've always said this too, about, I have always had, look, when you do what I do, if you have any degree of success, no matter how big success or small success, whenever you have any degree of success, there are always going to be people that will criticize you. It's part of the game. It's part of the gig. I accept that. I know it. I understand it. And I accept it. It is what it is. But, you know, people would say to me, oh, you know, John, when there's certain... This goes all the way back to the AMC days. You know, certain people making, so do you see such and such channel made a video criticizing you for thinking this about this movie? And my opinion has always been this. It says, look, I am clearly important enough to that person that they need to talk about me. But I can assure you that they are not important enough for me to talk about them. You know, and it is what it is. So I've just never understood it. I've never understood it. Who cares what another blog or another podcast or another YouTube channel is saying about something? You talk about what you think about that thing and leave everything else aside. So I don't know. It neither flatters me nor irritates me. You know, I tell people I really don't care, and I really don't, because here I am, right? Here I am. It doesn't matter whether I've done, and it's not because I'm the most talented guy in the world, not in the least. The reason I've been able to survive all this through doing, while many, many other blogs, podcasts, and YouTube channels have come and gone, the reason I'm still here is not because I'm more talented than anybody else that's done it. No, I think the reason I'm still here is I'm just still committed to those principles. I talk about what I love. I worry about what I want to say about something. I don't worry about what other people are saying about something. And I really don't care if people like or dislike what it is I say. I really don't care. Here's the thing. I give 2 squirts of urine about if somebody likes or doesn't like my opinion about a movie. I simply don't. All my job is to give my opinion. I'm going to give my honest opinion. It's what I think, and you can either agree with what I think or disagree with what I think, and we can still be friends nonetheless. But I think holding to that philosophy I started the movie blog in 2003. Granted, it was still a hobby at the time. It wasn't my job at the time, but I started the movie blog in 2003. So we're on 16 years now. I've been doing this. And the reason I've been able to have some degree of success in it and that I'm still here when a lot of other blogs, podcasts, YouTube channels have come and gone is just because I'm committed to those very, very simple principles. And I'm going to continue to be committed to that principle because this is all I know how to do. So anyway, the reason I go on about that is because one of my big things is I'm always trying to encourage other film fans to get started, get involved, make a podcast, make a blog, make a YouTube channel of your own. Because I believe the movie fan space needs more voices. And it doesn't matter if 3 people listen to your podcast or if 300 people listen to your podcast. It doesn't matter. Add your voice to the conversation. So I'm always really excited, and I try to motivate people to start their own podcast, start their own website, start their own blog, start their own YouTube channel. Add your voice to the conversation. And the reason I kind of gone off and rant on this other stuff is because when you do that, what I hope is that you'll be committed to those same principles. Be a podcast, blog, YouTube channel about the things you love, not about the things you hate. Be committed to giving your honest opinion on things. Don't worry about whether your opinion is popular or not. Just give your opinion because that's the only thing that you have that's unique to you. Everybody's talking about the same movies. What is unique about your podcast or blog or YouTube channel is you and your opinion. So be committed to that. And don't become a podcast, blog, or YouTube channel that you only exist by being a bottom-feeding TMZ, we talk about other YouTube channels. Don't be one of those. Be known by the things you love, not the things you hate. Be committed to giving your honest opinion, whether it's popular or not. And be about the things you want to talk about, not about other people talking about the things. So get involved, be committed to those principles. And I think you're all probably more talented than me. So I think if I can be around this long, sticking to those principles, probably at least half of you are more talented than I am. So you can probably do those things and be more enduring. Whether you have big numbers or small numbers doesn't matter. But I think you can have a lot of fun and add your voice to the conversation. Anyway, sorry, I get off on these rants because that's something that's important to me. That's something that's important to me. I want to see more film fans involved, and I want to see more film fans getting involved the right way. So anyway, that's just my thoughts. Take it for what it's worth. Anyway, thanks for that, Chris. All right, Micah T writes, Tony in Homecoming, that's not a hug. It's just getting the door. We're not there yet. That was a great moment in that movie, by the way. First thing Tony does when he sees Peter in Endgame is hug him. Awesome, yeah. And the line that Tom Holland, Peter Parker, gives him when, well, this is nice. I love the follow-up line. This is nice. It's just a perfect MCU kind of line to put on there. And it was heartfelt. It felt really great. I loved what Robert Downey Jr. and Tom Holland did in that scene, because not only was the moment of the hug great, it was the follow-up line of the hug as well, Micah, that I really, really loved and made that scene really, really special. It's a good observation. All right. Jonathan Teft writes in a really large super chat. Thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate the support, brother. All right. As a child actor, Joseph Tremblay, probably mean Tremblay, has had a pretty successful career. Dude, as a child, he's had a better career than 99% of actors out there. It's crazy. Anyway, Room, Wonder, The Predator, Good Boys, the upcoming Dr. Sleep, and Little Mermaid. Oh, I didn't even realize he was cast in Little Mermaid. Do you think he will continue to have this kind of success as he grows up? Well, that's the billion-dollar question. That's the billion-dollar question, because his look is going to change. His voice is going to change. Right now, he is a perfect little boy for movies, and I am so excited about Good Boys. I saw another new trailer, another Red Band trailer for Good Boys that I hadn't seen yet last night. or no, the other night when I went to go see Crawl, so a couple nights ago on Thursday night, and it looks even funnier than it's ever looked before. I cannot wait to see Good Boys. He looks amazing in that. But yeah, can he survive puberty? It's great that he's having all this success right now. It's awesome. It's probably going to set him for life. But a lot will depend on as he physically changes. Are his physical changes going to accommodate continuing on his career, or are they going to become obstacles in his coming career? It's going to be interesting to see. It's a big question, but yeah, dude, let's just look over again, Jonathan, that list you put together. There are so many actors that would kill to have a credits list like the one this child has, but he's so fun to see on screen. Just watching him in these Good Boy trailers just makes my heart happy. It's so great. But anyway, it's all going to be about how does he physically develop moving forward. And, we judge child actors by a different measure than we do adult actors. Can his talent develop? To move beyond just being an adorable child actor, can he actually become a thespian? Can he do that movie? So there's a lot of question marks. It's possible. It's possible. And I certainly hope he does. But it's rare. It's rare when we see it. We've seen it happen a few times that somebody can be a child star and continue on right through and being an adult star. But it does happen. Can he be one? I certainly hope so, because I'm loving this kid right now. All right, Jonathan Teft follows up with, would you say that besides Spider-Man and... Let me try this again. Would you say that besides Spider-Man and movies from Disney, this has been a pretty disappointing summer this year? It's hard to say. It's hard to say. Like, let me bring up here... let me bring up the release schedule here. And let's see here. Going to go by... let me go back to the beginning of April, okay? So, Best of Enemies wasn't bad. I kind of like that. Pet Sematary sucked. Shazam was great. Which one was after? Why am I forgetting which one after was? Oh, right. I skipped out on after. That's the one with Josephine Langford. I wasn't interested in that. I took a pass on it. Hellboy was bad. Little was disappointing. I had a lot of high hopes for Little. That was disappointing. Missing Link. A lot of people liked Missing Link. It didn't work for me all that well. Let's see. The Curse of La Llorona, I thought was pretty good. Where are we at? Breakthrough? Which one was Breakthrough again? The one with I don't even think I saw Breakthrough. Oh, I know which one this is now. No, I took a pass on Breakthrough, so I didn't see that. Avengers Endgame, obviously a big win. So Avengers Endgame. Then after that, we're into May. Intruder was okay. Long Shot was good. Ugly Dolls, not so good. The Hustle was all right. Wait a second, am I thinking of the right film? Let me just double check to make sure. Oh, no, sorry. The Hustle was not all right. The Hustle was bad. I was thinking of something different. Pokemon Detective Pikachu was okay. I was hoping it would be better. It was okay. Palms was not so great. Tolkien was all right. Where are we at here? Dog's Journey, I passed on, to be honest with you. John Wick Chapter 3 was great. The Sun Is Also Star was exactly how I thought it would be. Aladdin was great. Booksmart was fantastic. Brightburn was a disappointment. Where are we at now? Godzilla, King of the Monsters. People are just split on that. I was disappointed by Godzilla, King of the Monsters. Ma was quite good. Rocket Man was quite good. Then we're getting into June here. Dark Phoenix was a loss, unfortunately. Secret Life of Pets was okay at best. I still haven't seen Dead Don't Die. Men in Black International was a disappointment. Shaft to me was all right. Not as good as I was hoping it would be. Child's Play was all right. Toy Story 4 was fantastic. Yesterday was okay. Annabelle Comes Home was okay. I still haven't watched Midsommar. Spider-Man Far From Home was great. Crawl was great. Stuber disappointing. That's where we're at right now. So I don't know. It's a mixed bag. There are a number of films on that list that we just went through that were neither, Spider-Man or Disney films that were pretty good. But there were a good number of films, Jonathan, there that I was excited about that did not deliver. And maybe for some people they did deliver, but for me it didn't deliver, and that's kind of unfortunate. But let's put it this way. Hasn't been the best summer. And it certainly hasn't been the worst, but it hasn't been the best. But there have been a couple of notable, really big highlights as well. James Peterson writes, finally saw Hereditary last night. Boy, that stunk. Oh, really? I thought it was quite good. Satanic mumbo jumbo and overly gross for my liking. I did like it. I thought it was tense. I thought this is a great movie that exemplifies the idea that atmosphere can really make your movie. And atmosphere is kind of the big thing in Hereditary. And I thought Toni Collette should have been nominated for an Academy Award. I'm still stunned that she didn't. I'll tell you right, I am straight up stunned that she didn't get nominated for Academy Award for that. So, hey, all films subjective. You watched it and didn't like it. All respect in the world for that. But for me, I got to say Hereditary actually quite worked for me a lot. I thought it was pretty tense. Jonathan Teft writes, great movies this year that not enough people are talking about. The Mustang, I didn't see that one. Hotel Mumbai, finally got around to watching that one. That's the one with Dev Patel and Armie Hammer. It's great. Fighting with My Family is fantastic. Fighting with My Family is fantastic, and I thought it was going to be crap, and it's so good. Anyway, Long Shot I thought was great. The Kid I didn't see. Late Night I was very late to that game, but that one was really quite good. The Kid Who Would Be King, I don't think I ever got around to seeing that one either. But yeah, there are some, like Long Shot, Fighting with My Family, Hotel Mumbai. I mean, there are a lot of great films this year. And by the way, Long Shot, totally original film. Fighting with My Family. I mean, it's based on a true story, but totally original film. There are, again, it flies in the faces of people who say, Hollywood doesn't make original films anymore. Yes, they do. You just don't go out and support them. Anthony R. writes, happy Saturday, John. Thank you so much, Anthony. Just assembled my Dark Knight gaming chair from a company called Secret Lab. Great quality. Okay, sorry. I got to look this up. Dark Knight gaming chair. And what's the company called? Secret Lab. Okay, I gotta look this up here. The Secret Lab Titan 2020 Dark Knight series. Ooh. All right. I'm feeling you. Let me see if I can possibly get this up on screen here. I'm not sure if I can or not. Let me try. That's the wrong one. So apparently I cannot get it up on screen right now. Oh well, it is what it is. That looks great. That looks awesome. Okay, Anthony, if your job here was to make me a little bit jelly, congratulations, sir. You got me there, because I need a new chair. Do you know, I don't know if you can see it. Let me bring up on another camera here. I don't know if you guys see it. I am still using, do you guys recognize this chair? I mean, bonus points to any of you who recognize this chair. This chair that I use and I sit in, which is terribly uncomfortable. It's bad for my back and practically makes my ass numb. This chair that I've been using now for probably 6 or 7 years. This was the first chair. I bought 2 or 3 of these chairs from, I can't remember where I bought them from, but these was the first 2 or 3 chairs that I bought for the AMC closet days. We had our first news desk was this small white glass news desk. And we bought 3 of these chairs, 2 or 3 of these chairs, I think 3. And that's this chair. Still have this chair. I don't know how I ended up with it. I think it was just getting thrown out. So I'm so cheap. I've never just gotten around to get myself a better chair. I need to get myself a better chair. And now that I'm looking at your Dark Knight one, you've just made me really, really jealous, Anthony, because I need to get a better one, because this thing is so uncomfortable. It's so uncomfortable. Anyway, okay, let's see. Where do we go? Chris Smith. All right, next one that comes up from Chris Smith, who writes, hey, John, I know someone or a couple of people have mentioned this already, but please keep doing those quick reviews after the movie. Very helpful. Yeah, so I don't know why I did it, but I did a double feature the other night where I went to go see Stuber and Crawl. And I had a little bit of time in between the 2 movies. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to take my phone, because I got my new phone, and I'm just going to do my quick 1-minute reaction to Stuber. And I just uploaded it from the movie theater. And then I did the same thing with Crawl. And apparently you guys really liked it. I just kind of did it to kill time, but apparently everybody really liked it. And so I think I'm going to continue to do that. I think when I go to a movie, I'll come out, do a quick 30 to 45 second reaction to it, what I thought about it, and upload it, and then I'll do my full review later. But yeah, I was really surprised to see how many people, Chris, actually like that. So I think I will continue doing it. Thank you for the recommendation. All right. Dante Redgrave writes, Bad Times at the El Royale is now the film I point to when people whine about no original films. Kind of like Nice Guys. Why do you think no one supported these? Marketing? The marketing on Bad Times at the El Royale was tough. Because, how do you explain it? Like, look, when you watch the trailers for Bad Times at the El Royale, you could just sort of tell, well, I dug them. You could sort of tell these trailers aren't going to appeal to a wide base of people. These trailers aren't going to appeal to a wide range of the demographic. And it's going to have a hard time drawing in the viewers. And sure enough, it didn't do well at the box office. It's a very interesting, very original. I enjoyed Bad Times at the El Royale. I didn't think it was the greatest movie, but I enjoyed it. And Jeff Bridges was great in it. Chris Hemsworth was great in it. Dakota Fanning was great. Not Dakota Fanning. Dakota Johnson was great in it. I thought the performances were sharp across the board. I enjoyed the film. Good original film. But yeah, for that one, I got to mark that one up to the marketing. Because again, as much as I thought it was pretty good trailers, you could just tell that this isn't going to appeal to a lot of people. It was kind of strange and twisty and really didn't give you an idea about what the movie was about. And that's what kind of hurt Blade Runner 2049. The trailers never told you what the movie was about. Like, there's one thing to not give away major spoilers, but you got to at least tell the audience, what is this movie about? And Blade Runner 2049 never did that. And so thus it flopped. Even though it was a great movie, it flopped because they never told the audience what the movie was about. It's like they smugly said, it's Blade Runner, so you're going to come no matter what. Doesn't matter what we show you in the trailer. Well, guess what? It does matter. And I think that was part of the problem with Nice Guys. I have no idea. That movie looked hilarious. They told you what the movie was about, had big stars in it, and it looked fantastic and fun. But for whatever reason, people didn't go to support it. It's really frustrating, Dante. All right. Chris Warden writes, Man, what happened with Godzilla, King of the Monsters? I was excited to see it and thought the ads were strong, but now it looks like it will lose Warner Brothers around $200 million. It wasn't that good of a movie. It just wasn't that good of a movie. And I understand there are a bunch of people that love it, and I respect that. That's great. But I was one of the people really excited about it too. I was really excited for Godzilla, King of the Monsters. But then I saw it, and I was let down by it. The monster action was great, but not enough of the movie is you got to build strong stuff around the monster action, and they just failed at that. On top of that, we discussed this the other day, Chris, is that I think they started marketing the film too early. Because you know when Godzilla had its strongest buzz? A year before it came out. Because they dropped that trailer at Comic-Con last year and got everybody talking and everybody excited. But that was a year before the movie came out. And it never had that much buzz again. And then Rob and I had this discussion about, we think that if they had released Godzilla 2 months after Comic-Con last year, it would have made a lot more money. Not double or anything like that, but it would have made more. But instead, I think people just got Godzilla fatigue without even a movie, because it was just, we've been seeing trailers for Godzilla for a year. That's one of the reasons too why I keep telling people that studios need to start shortening the windows of when they put out their trailers. And that's just kind of my thought on it at any rate. Sam Fisher writes, where are we at here? Sam Fisher writes, one of two. The people who are upset that this is a shot-for-shot remake are being stupid. Do you know what I thought when I heard that they were doing a live-action Lion King? It's going to be a shot-for-shot remake, add in small elements to make it a little different, and maybe fix a couple of plot, and I am totally okay with that. Well, I mean, there were different directions they could have gone. This is not a shot-for-shot remake. There are scenes, like the opening, there are scenes that are shot-for-shot. But there is a lot that is shot differently. It's the same story. It's the Lion King story, for sure. But there's also a few things they do differently in the film. I don't want to give away any of them, but there's some of the funniest lines in this movie are lines that are not in the original animated thing. They do Scar's Be Prepared number very differently than the way they do it in the original animated film. It's not a shot-for-shot remake. It's close, though. Like, I wouldn't criticize anybody who calls it a shot-for-shot remake, even though it's not, but it is close. So I could forgive somebody for calling it that, but it's really not. But yeah, look, something like Sin City comes out. That's like shot for shot with the comic book, and everybody's like, oh, it's shot for the comic book. That's great. Lion King comes out. Look, Lion King was in a little bit of a screwed if you do, screwed if you don't. If they had changed too much, everybody would have complained. That's not my Lion King, is what everybody would have said. If you do it too close, people like me really appreciated that they did that close. But there are going to be some people that go, oh, it's just a shot-for-shot remake. It's like, well, make up your mind. What do you want? Of course this is Lion King. You got to do it as close to the original as possible. And they did, but it was a different, in a different medium, in a different way. And I love it and appreciate it. And I think it's fantastic. A lot of critics disagree. I am curious, though, right now, where is Lion King sitting at the moment? On Rotten Tomatoes. Last I checked, it was 59%. Ooh, guys, it's gone all the way up to 60. Yeah, so the critics are not giving this movie the love that I think it deserves. And that's fair. Hey, it's all subjective. They're not liking it the way I did, but I'm surprised. I really, really did think that I saw it and I thought the critics were going to love it. I really did. It's, I've been saying this a lot, but it's true. Lion King is my new Man of Steel. A movie that I loved beyond description, that I could have swore I thought all the critics and people would have loved. And yet the critics are not giving it the love that I thought they would. And it's going to ultimately probably be a little bit more divisive than I thought it would be. It's my new Man of Steel. So that's the two films for me now that I'm going to have to go back to is Man of Steel and Lion King. The two films that I adore beyond measure. I just adore both of these films beyond measure, but a lot of the critics do not give it the love that I think it deserves. And hey, that's the way it is. That's a subjectivity film, my friend. That's a subjectivity film. All right, we move on now. Chris Warden writes, oops, sorry, took a big jump. Let me get back to where we should be. La, 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 la. Okay. Chris Warden writes, also, Keanu Reeves' cameo in You Will Always Be My Maybe is one of the funniest I will ever see. I laughed so hard that I fell out of my chair. Well, I'm going to say this. It ain't a cameo. I think I've made the mistake of referring to Keanu Reeves' role in Always Be My Maybe as a cameo. It's not really a cameo. It's a small role. A cameo is when somebody pops into one scene, hey, everybody, and then flops out. That's a cameo. Keanu Reeves is actually a minor character in the film. So while I have been guilty as well of calling Keanu Reeves' part a cameo before, it really isn't. It's a supporting role. It's not a cameo. It's much more than a cameo. It is a supporting role in the film. That's how I see it. Anyway, Guy Volt writes, what was your reaction on Masvidal's 5-second knockout? Oh, of Askren? Amazing. And by the way, the official time is 5 seconds. But really, that was a 2-second knockout. Bell rang, sprint to the center of the ring, flying knee, and Askren was out. Within 2 seconds, he was out. It just took the ref 3 additional seconds to run in there and then, haul him off of Askren. That was a 2-second knockout, but it was, Dennis Zen was over here too. So it was me, Dennis, my buddy Ryan, my buddy Soul. Who else was here? Ann was here. Our girlfriend Nairi was here. And there's a whole bunch of us watching the fights, right? And I was sitting like right beside Dennis. And when he came running across that ring, for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, there was a UFC on the other week. And bell rung, guy immediately sprinted across the thing, jumping flying knee, caught him on the chin, lights out, 2 seconds. It was insane. Anyway, Dennis and I are sitting right beside each other, but everybody else is in the room too, right? And when he connected with that, everybody in my place, we jumped up out of our chairs. Like, ah! Like it was one of the most insane things I had ever seen in the UFC. And all of us just jumped out of our seats. It was crazy. Django19 writes, do you think John Watts is an underrated director in the MCU? Everyone talks about Russo's, Gunn, Whedon, Taika, but Watts has delivered 2 solid Spider-Man films. He has. He has. Here's the thing. When I think about underrated Spider-Man directors, when I think about underrated MCU directors, one of the main things that comes to my mind, to be honest with you, is Peyton Reed. Peyton Reed is one that comes to my mind a lot, to be honest. And he's directed two very solid Ant-Man things, right? Great Ant-Man things. I'm gonna see if I can. I like his Ant-Man movies so much. You know, with the depth of field, you can't really see. But I've actually got. I was gonna point out a couple. I've got like a couple of Ant-Man figures because I love what he's done with Ant-Man. I just absolutely love what he's done with Ant-Man. But if you ask a lot of people, even people who are MCU fans, if you ask them to tell you. If you ask them, do you know who Peyton Reed is? A lot of people wouldn't be able to tell you who Peyton Reed is. A lot of people won't be able to tell you who Peyton Reed is. They've never even heard of him, despite the fact that he's directed two very solid MCU films. And I think you're onto something. Where did you go? There you are. I think you're really onto something here, that Watts is another name. I think if you ask a lot of people, do you know who Taika Waititi is? A lot of people will probably know who he is. If you ask them about Joss Whedon, obviously. If you ask them about the Russos or James Gunn, obviously. But I think if you bring up John Watts, I think a lot of people aren't going to know who they're talking about. Even after a big successful film, which will probably join the $1 billion club like Spider-Man Far From Home. And it's unfortunate, but it's cool all at the same time. But hey, you know, it is what it is. But listen, if he keeps making movies like this, people will start to know who he is. If Peyton Reed keeps making movies, the quality level that he did with his Ant-Man films, people will know who Peyton Reed is. So give it some time, but I think they will know. But yes, I think Peyton Reed and John Watts right now are kind of I'm not going to say underrated, they're underappreciated. I think they're underappreciated right now. I think that's the best way to put it. Rachel P. writes, is it just me or does the new Flash TV series suit look weird? I think the older looked a lot better in my opinion. What's your opinion on your favorite? Honestly, Rachel, I'm kind of notorious for not caring. I really... How do I put this? I really think... If you guys have watched me for any period of time, you know that I don't care about costumes. I don't care about costumes. I don't think they're all that important. I don't think they make a movie or a TV show any better or any worse. Because, I mean, look at, like, one of the shows that I really love right now is Black Lightning. That costume's terrible. That costume is just absolutely terrible. So anyway, I look at that and so when I see the Flash and sometimes they make costume decisions, yeah, some look better than others and not, but ultimately for me, and I understand other people put a lot of value in what a costume looks like and maybe for good reason, but for me, it's never been an issue. I've never liked it. I've never cared about it. So anyway, you know, it is what it is. I don't really care. So I don't really notice the changes all that much. That's me. Now, I'm not saying that's the right way of looking at it. And I'm not saying if you put more importance on that sort of stuff, that it's the wrong way of looking at it. But it is what it is. If you like it, great. If you don't like it, that's fine. But just for somebody like me, where I've never put much value or importance on the design, because again, Black Lightning, the costume design is terrible. But the show is great, so it doesn't really make a difference. So I don't really notice much of the differences in the Flash costume, to be honest with you. I think other people may, and they will have a better kind of thought on that, but for me, I really don't see it. Anyway, Django19 writes, does AT&T acquiring HBO discourage you from getting HBO Max? Do you think the quality of their shows will decline? Will they still be the king of TV? It doesn't discourage me at all. Until I see a noticeable decline, I'm not going to assume there's going to be a decline. I'm also not going to assume it's going to get any better. So, you know, AT&T buying them out, buying out Warner Media and all that kind of stuff, I'm not going to have any assumptions at all. So I'll tell you what, though, I saw their initial announcement about what's coming to HBO Max. I got to tell you, I'm planning on getting it. I think it all looks good right now. Now, whether it ultimately ends up being good and whether it ultimately ends up strong and all that kind of stuff, we'll have to wait and see. I don't know. We'll find out soon enough, but we'll find out. But I'm going to need to see evidence before I'm going to say this was a great move. I need to see evidence that the content has gotten better. But also before I say this is a bad move, I need to see evidence that the content's going to get worse. Right now, they've announced HBO Max. I think it looks really good. It could be very strong, so we'll have to wait and see. All right, Brian Acevedo writes, John, the time is now to watch My Hero Academia. I know my wife keeps trying to get me to watch it, but I've got so many things on my watch list. Because I don't have time for a lot of TV. So I got so many things on my watch list. I got to admit, unfortunately, My Hero Academia is pretty down low on the priority list for me, even though my own wife is trying to get me to watch it a lot. It's pretty down low, but I've got so many people telling me that they really love it. So I'm glad so many people do enjoy it. Let's see. I just got a few minutes left here, guys. Jason Kelly writes, what motivates Ray as a character? I don't know. Really? You couldn't tell what motivates Ray as a character? To me, it's pretty obvious. As a matter of fact, there's been some of the criticism of Rey's character has been that her motivations have been too obvious and a little too simple. So I don't know. I'd say just watch it again. I think it becomes pretty clear. As a matter of fact, again, I think one of the criticisms levied against the Rey character has traditionally been that they maybe make it a little too clear, a little too on the nose about what her motives are. So I would say go back and watch it again and see what stands out to you. That would be my encouragement, Jason. All right. Ryan Lohner writes, my response to people upset about villains being gay, what exactly makes you think Thanos isn't gay? Well, that's a good point. Give me one piece of canon evidence that he isn't. Well, I mean, it depends on if you're asking canon evidence as in the movies. In the movies, there's none. There's no evidence one way or the other. In the comics, there is probably some evidence, but the comics and the MCU are two different things. So that's a very interesting point you raised, Ryan. I hadn't thought of it in that term before. Suthius writes, hey, Mr. C, out of curiosity, I looked up John Campea Gifts. One of my favorites is you doing going to town on your panic button. Do you still use that button? No, I do not own that button. That is not my button. That is one that when I rant about something, I still get a lot of people sending me that GIF, which is a pretty funny one. The panic button. Yeah, that's the one. I haven't seen that one, but no, it is not my button. I didn't own it. I think that was one of the early buttons that we bought because when we decided to implement a timed thing on Schmodown, I think that button was one of the first buttons that we bought to use in Schmodown. Now, we eventually moved on to a much better, after that, we moved on to a much better system, but I think that was one of those buttons. And the things were constantly breaking down, which is why I was hammering it so hard and just throwing it away because they were breaking down anyway. So anyway, there's that. Okay, guys, I just got time for a couple more questions here today. Matt Phillips writes, do you think we'll get any cameos of Peter staying at Doctor Strange's place or Wakanda since he's laying low? Parker, one more week and you're out. I don't think so. I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're going to come back to Spider-Man when they come back to Spider-Man. I don't think you're going to see him appearing in any of the other films. Other than the next big crossover film, yes. And it's certainly not impossible, Matt. It's certainly not. We've seen MCU have characters float in and out of other movies, so that is certainly possible. But if you're asking me if I would expect it, I would say no. I don't expect that they would. I don't expect that they would, but anything is possible. Django 19 writes, does Rotten Tomatoes percentage of Aladdin and Lion King hurt sequels' chances? No. Does not hurt their chance. Well, I mean, I guess one way of looking at Django is that having low critic ratings doesn't help your chances, but I don't think it's going to hurt them too awful bad. I think you can do, for instance, I don't think you could have done a sequel, even though they did. I don't think you could have really done a sequel for the original Aladdin animated thing. But then, of course, they did with Jafar, right? But the way that ended, it ended. The way this live action Aladdin ended, it feels like you could have gone on and done something else. You know, it feels like they could have done that. And they could do another one. And with this thing approaching $1 billion, I don't think it'll hit $1 billion, but it's getting close. With the Aladdin film getting close to $1 billion, I got to believe there are conversations going on about doing another Aladdin because it worked. Lion King, I think even if Lion King made $3 billion at the box office, I don't think they were going to do a sequel to it. I just think Lion King is a horse of a different color, to quote Wizard of Oz. I just don't think there's a way they're going to do that. So maybe they will, maybe they won't, but who knows? We'll have to see. All right, final question of the day, guys. And then, unfortunately, I got to step. We've been going for almost 2 hours. My voice is going to die here. But don't worry, guys. I'm going to do a companion video for this today. The rest of the questions will get answered today. But I've got something I've got to run and do for about an hour. I got to get the Spider-Man thing put up. I got to do a thing. So a lot of other things I got to get done here today. But Suthius writes, there's a meme of Cap looking back, Thanos' gauntlet hand, and says, let me try this again. There's a meme of Cap holding back Thanos' gauntlet hand and says, Martha. Thanos replies, who the hell is Martha? Cap ends, damn it, it was worth a shot. Okay, that sounds kind of... That sounds funny. I like that. Never get tired of the Martha jokes. I never get tired of the Martha jokes. Okay, now we continue on. We keep things going here with Chris Parsons, who writes, thoughts on Bloom's RoboCop and using the old suit. So with Bloom, you probably mean Neil Blomkamp, who directed District 9, which is awesome. He also directed Chappie and Elysium, which were not so awesome in my opinion. But so there's been word around that he is working on a new RoboCop film, like a reboot of RoboCop. And he recently said in social media that his RoboCop design suit will be the exact same design as the RoboCop suit in the original RoboCop. That's all well and good. But first of all, I have serious doubts that this movie's even going to get made. I know they're working on it and they're developing it, but I have serious doubts it's going to get made. Maybe it does. Maybe it will. But let's assume that it will get made for a second here. What do I think about them using the old suit? Irrelevant. It absolutely inconsequential. It's the design of the suit, if it's terrible, isn't going to make the movie any worse. And if the design of the suit is great, it's not going to make the movie any better. You know, I was talking a little bit earlier about Black Lightning. The Black Lightning costume in the Black Lightning show is terrible. It's a terrible costume. But that doesn't change it from being a really great show, in my opinion. Like, I love the show. I think the show's great, and them having a terrible costume doesn't make it any less great. So honestly, I think it's kind of inconsequential one way or the other, especially since I'm not even sure that movie's going to get made. Suthius writes, at the end of the New York battle, Cap is pretty much dinged up, yet minutes after apprehending Loki, he comes face to face with 2023 Cap, looking very pristine and brand new, no scratches. Nitpicky, I know. You know what, Suthius? I think that's a great point. You're right. By the end of the New York battle, he's been battered and beaten and bruised and torn up and ripped up. But you're right. He then comes face to face. I didn't even think about this. He comes face to face with himself in Endgame, and he looks like he's totally fresh, just got out of the shower, put on, and who knows, maybe he did. Maybe he went, took a shower. Maybe there was a couple of minutes of layover there where he took a quick shower. Put on a new Cap suit. I'm stretching here. I'm stretching badly. You know what? I didn't even think about it, Suthius, and maybe it is a little nitpicky, but that's kind of a big little plot hole there. That's a big little plot hole. Didn't even think about it before, but you're absolutely right. I can't believe we haven't caught that before. Good catch, man. All right, Echo Base Network writes, 100% agree with your tweet on GE. They really dropped the ball with this theme. Oh, you mean Galaxy's Edge. 100% agree with your tweet on Galaxy's Edge. They really dropped the ball with this theme park. No, they did not. This theme park is great. It just could have been greater. That's all I'm saying. They didn't drop the ball on this thing. Star Wars Galaxy Edge is great. And that's what I put in my tweet. It's great. I love it. I've been to it 2 times. I'm going to go back to it again tomorrow. It's really great. My point was that there was a mistake they made. But anyway, let's finish reading what you wrote. They dropped the ball at this theme park. No, they did not. Did you see the concept art of the theme park they should have made? Oh, that's Lucas World. Who cares about that? I don't care what other people think. No, Galaxy's Edge is great. What I tweeted out and what I put after my second visit was that what I do think was a big missed opportunity. Because the theme park is great. You walk in to Star Wars Galaxy's Edge and you feel like you've walked into the world of Star Wars. You feel like you've walked into the Star Wars universe. They do a great job at it with all the props, the buildings, the sound effects swirling around. It's great. The Millennium Falcon being there. It's wonderful. But what I put out on my social media, particularly after my second visit, is that after my second visit, you really do feel the absence of more original trilogy stuff. Now, I get it. This is a Star Wars world at Galaxy's Edge that takes place in the current Star Wars timeline, in the era of the New Order. And it's great. They got New Order stormtroopers and officers walking around, stopping people in the middle of the street and questioning them. It's great. It's really fun. But I didn't notice it so much my first time through because I was just in awe and amazed about everything they've done there. But my second time through, you really do, the more you go, the more you feel the absence of the original trilogy stuff. And now look, I get it. Their philosophy was, this is an outpost in the Star Wars universe in the time of the new era. And that's their overarching philosophy. And I get that. And I respect that. And it has some great effect. It really does. It's a wonderful place to be. But that notwithstanding, I really do feel that incorporating, at least having areas of Galaxy's Edge that were more dedicated to the original trilogy timeline, I think that would have been beneficial. A lot. I think that would have been beneficial a lot. Look, I still love Galaxy's Edge. I think it's wonderful. I have a great time at it. I've gone a couple of times. I'm going to go back again. But it would have been better had they had more original trilogy stuff. I 100% disagree with you, Echo Base, when you say they dropped the ball at the theme park. They did not. It's wonderful. It's great. But it certainly could have been better by incorporating original trilogy stuff more. Now you can say, but John, they have the Millennium Falcon. Well, yeah, they do. And that's fantastic. When you're walking around that corner and you come to this giant courtyard with this giant 1-to-1 scale Millennium Falcon, it's awe-inspiring. It's great. But that's the Millennium Falcon from the new era. Yes, it's something from the original trilogy, but it's not really because it's the current timeline Millennium Falcon, but whatever. It's great. It just could have been better. That's all I'm saying on it. It could have been better if they incorporated more original trilogy stuff. That's my thought. Django19 writes, thoughts on Kawhi going to the Clippers with Paul George? Well, look, I've been telling everybody forever that Kawhi's going to LA. I've been telling everybody forever. He wanted to go home. LA is home. He wanted to come back and play at home. This is where he grew up. And I told everybody he was coming back to LA, and I'm fine. As a Toronto Raptors fan, I'm fine with that. He came, he helped us get an NBA title. God bless you, sir. God bless you, and great success in all of your future endeavors. What more can we ask? You helped us win a championship. That's all we can ask. So, but I told everybody he's going to go to LA, and I knew it was 50-50 that he'd end up on the Lakers or the Clippers. End up on the Clippers, great. Paul George, look, Paul George isn't the player he was before his horrific injury. He's just not the same player he was. He can still be dominant, but he's just not the same player he was. And I think he's going to be a little bit of a question mark. A lot of people are saying that now the Clippers are title contenders, and maybe considering the Lakers, I'll tell you what, there's some rumors going around that the Lakers are going to get Chris Paul from the Thunder. If they get Chris Paul to go with the pieces they've already got, I think Lakers become a title contender. Golden State's not going to be a title contender this year. So there's that. So maybe, but I think people are making a bigger deal out of the Paul George move than they deserve. He's still a very, very good player, but I don't see them as legit title contenders yet. Outside shot, yes, but we'll see. 786 writes, my first movie theater experience was when my parents took me to see The Lion King back in 94. That's awesome. Now I'm taking them to see this new one. Looking forward to it. That's always, because you guys know that I have a similar thing that I do with my family. Like the first memory I have, my earliest childhood memory is being taken to see Star Wars. And now when I go home at Christmas time, I take my family to go see Star Wars. It's just a great thing. That is such an awesome thing. That your first experience was the 94 original, and now you're taking your parents to go see the new one. That whatever movie we're talking about, that's special. That's really special. That's cool. Cherish that memory, man. Take some pictures too. Because it's not every day you get to do something like that. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that, man. That made my heart smile. All right, Factual Opinion writes, you got me addicted to Zevia Cola, John, damn you. And yep, that's what I'm drinking right now. I don't want to tip it so far that I spill. But can you see, it's a clear, this is a cola, and it's no sugar and no artificial sweeteners either. Because, diet soda is really quite bad for you, and I drink more diet soda than I should. Zevia is completely different. My doctors recommended that I get off the artificial sweetener diet sodas, and there is this one soda called Zevia, and it's cola flavor with no sugar and no artificial sweeteners either. And the first time I tasted it, it was a little bit weird, but now it's really grown on me. And now most of the time when you see me drinking out of a cup, well, whenever I got a bottle, it's water. But whenever you see me with this cup, it's usually Zevia Cola. And it's got a little bit of a lubricating effect on my throat as well. It really helps me get through the longer shows. So I'm glad you liked it, but it is, yeah, you can't get addicted to it, but I'm glad you enjoyed it, man. All right, let's see. Suthius writes, my friend said there should be a job in Hollywood where someone would be well-versed with books and would slap the director anytime something needs changing for adaptation. I almost slapped my friend. So wait a minute. Your friend is saying there should be a job to let the director know when there should be something that needed adaptation, or they slap the director whenever they do change something from the books? Because you're right. Your friend is wrong. Like, books are books, movies are movies. And just because something works on a printed page doesn't necessarily mean that'll play out well in a live action setting on the big screen. And thus you need adaptation. And you need to change things up. So yeah, I'm down with that. So if what your friend is saying here, Suthius, is that they should never change anything from the book, well, that's a recipe for making bad movies. So that's a problem. You need, and no matter how good a book is, it's that great because it's written for its medium. If you're going to change mediums, you're probably going to have to adapt something. And that is absolutely necessary. So don't slap your friend, but I am on your side in that debate, Suthius. I'm on your side in that debate. All right. Dom Albrez writes, top 4 shows of 2019 so far. I don't do top lists. Like, don't ever, most of the viewers know, don't send me a question that says, John, what's the top 5 this? I don't do that. And I don't watch tons of TV, so I don't keep that information off the top of my head. But then Dom follows up and writes, number 1, Stranger Things. Number 2, Big Little Lies. Number 3, Game of Thrones. Number 4, Barry. Well, first of all, I don't watch Big Little Lies, but Ann does, so I've seen a little bit of it this season. She tells me that's a great show. Stranger Things season 3 was great. I thought Game of Thrones, the final season, was fantastic. Barry was really good as well. So I like all your picks. I mean, again, I can't give my top 4 or anything like that, but I like your picks a lot, Dom. Those are all good ones. All right, Django19 writes, do you think Tony was better developed in other MCU movies rather than his own? I personally prefer his story arc from Civil War, Homecoming, Infinity War, and Endgame. No, I don't agree. I think his biggest character development, honestly, probably happened in Iron Man 3. Now, his story arc was great in those ones, but as far as his actual character development, I don't think they ever did more development with Tony than they did in 3. And that's the one where he's really suffering the PTSD. He does a lot of stuff in the movie without his iron armor. He does all that. I thought we saw the most character development. Now, in a lot of these other movies, for instance, like Civil War, we saw the results of his character development. Like Civil War starts with, he's now at a place where he's questioned the way they're doing things, and he's got to get in line with the government. But he didn't develop through the movie to get there. That's where he started. So I would actually suggest that one of the worst movies with Iron Man, even though I like Iron Man 3, it's not as bad as Iron Man 2, but it's one of the less good films with Iron Man in it. It was probably the one that had his best development. And so I'm going to stick with Iron Man 3. The best Tony development came in Iron Man 3. That's what I'm going to stick with. Okay. Chance James McDuffie writes, hey, John, my girlfriend and I saw Far From Home in an AMC Dolby theater. It changed our lives forever. Keep up the filthy, my friend. Dude, I'm telling you what, when you go to an AMC Prime Dolby or a straight up AMC Prime, it will ruin you for going to the movies. Because I used to just love going to my AMC Burbank 16 up the street just because it's a good theater. But now that they got a Prime and an AMC Prime Dolby in there with the big motorized recliners, the Dolby surround sound, the incredible picture, blah, 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 that's ruined me now. Now when I got to go and watch a movie there that's not in the Prime or the Prime Dolby, whatever, I go, I grumble. First world problems, but I grumble. It's like, oh, now I got to go watch it in the non-Prime theater. It will ruin you when you watch a movie in one of these theaters. It has certainly ruined me, and now you guys know exactly what I've been talking about, James. I'm glad you guys had a good time. All right. Christopher James writes, Isn't there supposed to be a live-action Star Blazers movie coming out? Wasn't Tom Cruise attached? I don't know that any of that was ever confirmed. Look, again, we hear 1,000 movies. Something's going to get developed. So-and-so has bought the rights to it, blah, blah, blah. But a lot of times those things don't ever happen. I love Star Blazers, also known as Space Battleship Yamato. I love Star Blazers. It's one of the few animes that I've always really enjoyed watching. Anyway, I would love to see a live action. They did a Japanese version of the live action one, which I actually thought was quite bad. But I would love to see a true Hollywood live action Space Battleship Yamato, aka Star Blazers. I would love it, but I doubt we're ever going to see it. I hope we do, but I doubt it, because a lot of times these things, some announcements get made, but nothing ever comes out of it. I think that's going to be the situation with Star Blazers, but oh my God, we can hope. We can hope, and I will be hoping. All right. BW Rosa writes, thoughts on Jenica, the fifth turtle from IDW team. No idea who it is. Sorry about that. No idea who that is. Joe Leon writes, comic movie fan turned to comic fan in 1989 with Batman first comic bought, Batman 442, first Drake. Oh, the Tim Drake Robin. Any single comic that holds a special place for you? Well, I mean, I remember as a kid, the first comic I ever got was it was Hulk versus Thing. And then there was like a Wolverine versus Hulk as well. But I think Hulk versus Thing was the first one, or Wolverine, one of those two. But I got them both. I can't remember which order I got them in. But then I went through a long time where I didn't get any comics. But I remember as a teenager, young teenager, I picked up The Dark Knight Returns. And that is the comic that got me heavy into comics for a lot of years after that. And then I was just heavy into comics after that for a long period of time. But it was, as kind of cliche-ish as it may sound, I mean, I bought the Death of Superman issue and stuff like that, and I would pick up the odd comic. But I remember when I bought, because my friend showed it to me, I'm like, whoa, and I bought The Dark Knight Returns. That's what got me into comics, like really hardcore, and got me buying comics a lot. So that's the one that, I know it sounds a little cliche-ish, but honestly, it really is The Dark Knight Returns. That's the one that got me heavy into it, Joe. All right. Next one up. Chris Parsons writes, would you ever do Vanity Fair's Fear Box Challenge? I'll be honest with you, I don't know what that is, Chris. I don't know what the Fear Box Challenge is. But just the fact that it is called the Fear Box Challenge makes it like, well, you know what? As long as it doesn't have anything to do with heights, I might do it. Let me look this up. Fear Box Challenge. What is the Fear Box Challenge? Oh, they just put their hands into a box? Oh, you know what? I think I have seen one of these before. Okay. Yes. Would I do this? Yes. Yes. Anything involving heights? Nope. A whole bag of nope. Nope. Nothing involving heights. I have a terrible, paralyzing fear of heights, which is weird. I never used to. And then somewhere between being like 18 and 19 and 24 and 25, somewhere in those years, I just developed a fear of heights, and I don't know how, and I don't know why, and it drives me crazy. But yeah, Fear Box Challenge, that actually doesn't look so bad. As long as I don't have to eat something gross, and it's not something involving heights, I could do the Fear Box. Yeah, I could do the Fear Box Challenge. Django19 writes, you can see one now, Joker or the Rise of Skywalker. Look, I am desperately looking forward to that Joker movie. You guys know I've been going bananas for this Joker movie ever since last year. I cannot wait to see it. But one of these is Star Wars. So clearly it's going to be the Rise of Skywalker. Let's see. Suthius writes, slurping out the juices in the shrimp's head is heaven. Oh, I cannot eat. No. Little breaded shrimp, fine. Full-blown shrimp, can't do it. And all the fatty stuff in a crab shell. Oh, no, I don't eat crab, lobster, any of that stuff. I'm not a big seafood guy. Oh man, don't get me started. Seafood is life. I wish I liked seafood. Like, there's a couple of things I don't like that I wish I did just so I could fit in better. One is drinking. I wish I enjoyed beer. But I just don't like the taste of beer. I don't like the taste of alcohol, so I don't drink. People sometimes think, oh, John doesn't drink for moral reasons. No. I have no problem with drinking. I don't like the taste of alcohol. I wish I did, and I do not like seafood. And I wish I did, because everybody wants to go to the Crab Shack or whatever these stupid places are called. Everybody loves seafood, and I don't. I wish I did. But I just don't, but I wish I did just so I could fit in more. Ben Rayner writes, I don't like the post-credit scene to Stranger Things 3. Really, I did. It takes away from a moment from the finale that I cried at, and I hope it's different than we think and not the obvious outcome. Oh, no, it is. But I'll be honest, without going into spoilers, Ben, I'll be honest with you. In that finale, I already knew. The way it's shot, if you really watch the final episode, and again, I'm going to try to explain this without giving anything away. The way everything transpires and the order in which they show us the shots, to me, it was already obvious. To me, it was already obvious. I already knew. And I said, we were watching the final episode, this. Clearly this. Yada, 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 blah, 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 XXXXX. Clearly. And then the post-credit scene comes, and it just kind of affirms what I already thought. So because of that, I appreciated the post-credit scene. But yeah, for me personally, I called it. As it was happening, I called it. I said, oh, well, the way they're shooting it, it makes it obvious that blah, 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 blah. That's how I saw it at any rate. Now, clearly you saw it differently and it made a certain impact on you that maybe the post-credit scene undermined, and that's unfortunate. But for me, I had a different experience. It made me actually appreciate the post-credit scene even more. And for those of you who've seen Stranger Things Season 3, y'all already know what we're talking about. All right. And hopefully I was able to address that without giving anything away. Suthius writes, was watching old videos of you and you looked, well, you had fuller cheeks. Yeah, I mean, there was a long period when I was at AMC when I was tipping over 240 pounds. When I was tipping over 240. It's true. That's where I was at. 40 is indeed the new 30. Stay healthy, stay happy. Well, I mean, one of the big things about, like, as I'm sure many of you remember now, I had 2 heart attacks in the same day, within an hour of each other. Actually, I had 2 separate heart attacks. And I was actually at my MMA, I was at my gym, at the UFC gym, and I was actually in a Muay Thai class with James Sandman Irvin. You remember him getting horribly knocked out by Anderson the Spider Silva. But yeah, my Muay Thai instructor, he fought Anderson Silva once. Lost badly. Actually, James was a really good UFC fighter. I used to love watching him. Anyway, he was my Muay Thai guy. Ann was in a jiu-jitsu class. I was in my Muay Thai class. And after the class was done, I won't go into the full story. I didn't think it was a heart attack. Even my doctors at first didn't think it was I had a heart attack, and then I had another one. And they fixed it. It was kind of a fluke thing, but it is what it is. I mean, and it made me change. But I had gone, and this happens to professional basketball players a lot, but I had worked out and exercised a certain amount and ate a certain amount of calories. Then all of a sudden, I was sitting on my ass and eating even more. And my weight blew up. And I was scared to ever do more than walk more than a few steps. I remember for the first few months after my heart attacks, that even when I would walk, like from trying to walk across a garage to get to my car, I would have to stop. Because I'd start to feel winded and start to get a little bit of pain. And I was told that was normal, and I get it. And it kind of kicked off a couple of years where I didn't do anything. I just didn't do anything physically. And my weight blew up and all that kind of stuff. And you guys can see it in my videos. And then finally, I had a good talk with my cardiologist. This was a few years ago. And my cardiologist is like, look, you're good to go. You're perfectly good. You're totally healthy. You can go. Get on a treadmill. Go long walks. Start, exercising again. And, when you feel comfortable, you can even start training again if you want. And it took me a little while, but it was nervous. I was scared. Straight up, I was scared to do anything. I was scared for a long time to do anything that even got me breathing heavy. And it was challenging, but I mean, and I'm still not at my ideal weight. I'm about 25 pounds less than I was at my peak. Well, thank goodness. But I still got another, I'd like to lose about another 15 pounds. I'd like to, but it was a scary time. It was a scary time that for years, I was paralyzed by fear to do anything. And, but yes, I am feeling much better than I did back in those days. So thanks for that, Suthius. Anyway, Otto000 writes, ever fall asleep in the theater during a movie? Never in a theater. Never in a theater. You know who does though? My wife and her brother, Ray. Ray will fall asleep in the theater all the time. Ray can fall asleep. Like, seriously, Ray has a mutant power where if he says, I'm going to take a nap, literally 3 seconds later, you'll hear him snoring. Like, I'm not kidding. We've been in conversations. We joke about this, but it's true. Ann and I, like, Ray will be over and whatever, hanging out, and we'll be in a conversation with Ray. And then all of a sudden, he's asleep. It's crazy. And I actually envy that because it takes me a good hour to fall asleep. Like, I can go to bed at 9:45 because I get up at like around 5. But I go to bed that early because I know it's going to take me, it's probably not going to be till at least 10:30 or 11 o'clock that I actually fall asleep. So and Ann has inherited that. Ann's not as bad as Ray, but at least 1 out of every 3 movies that I go to with Ann, she'll fall asleep in the theater. You know what? It's actually been getting a little bit better, but I myself don't fall asleep in theaters, no. Krypton Cage writes, to the people who get offended by a gay villain, I say this. So should I get offended that every single villain ever was straight? Are you saying straight people are bad then? How hard is this to grasp? Well, you know, here's the funny thing, Krypton Caged. You know, the news came out the other day, at least there's a report going around that Black Mask, who's going to be the villain in Birds of Prey, is going to be a gay character. And it made everybody mad because it made some people mad because they just don't like gay people being in their movies. So there's that. And then it made some other people mad that, why are you making the gay guy the villain? Now, at the same time, though, there was a lot of articles written in the LGBTQ community saying that, you know what? No, this is good. Having a gay villain is a good thing because it widens the diversity of the roles, which we should be. Because guess what? There are gay people who are good people, and there are gay people who are bad people. Just like there are straight people who are good people and straight people who are bad people. And white people who are good people and white people who are bad people. And Arab people who are good people and Arab people who are bad people. And black people who are good people and black people who are bad people. And actually a lot of the response I saw from the gay community and websites are saying this is actually a good thing. Some people got defensive about it. But I think a lot of people in the gay community saw it as a good thing. It's showing that gay people can be the heroes, they can be the villains, they can be the antagonists, they can be the protagonists, they can be all this kind of stuff. And I think for most people, it's being seen as a positive thing. Because I agree with you. Of course, we should have gay villains. Because we have gay heroes, we should also have gay villains. We have straight heroes, we have straight villains. So I'm in agreement with you. And I think for the most part, from what I've seen, and I haven't researched it heavily, but I'm just telling you what my exposure has been, which is admittedly limited, has been that a lot of people in the online world, in the gay community, are actually saying this is a good thing. And I think it is too. I think it's a good thing. So I honestly don't care. I really don't care if Black Mask is straight or gay or whatever. I don't care. If you make him straight, great. If you make him gay, great. I really don't care. But I think a lot of people are seeing it as a positive thing, and I think it's a positive thing too. All right, Krypton Cage writes, gay or not, they're people, and people can be good and bad. Completely agree. If you're talking inclusion and want to see gay people as normal too, then don't panic. Or then don't paint them only as good. That's unrealistic. And again, I think that's what most people are feeling, even in the gay community as well. So I'm seeing mostly a positive response to that. So let's see. Look, and right now, nothing's been made official. For all we know, the character's not going to be a gay character. There are reports that he is, which is fine, but who knows? We'll have to wait and see. Jared Graff writes, back when channel surfing was a thing, it doesn't happen all that often. I still do because I got my YouTube TV, so I'll still do a little channel surfing. I have found 2 movies that I ended up liking. The first was Highlander, nice. And the second is Support Your Local Sheriff. I'm not familiar with that film. Have you ever had the same experience with a film? You know, I'm sure I did, but none come to mind. Now, there are certainly movies that if I'm channel surfing and I see that it's on, I stop and watch it, but that's a movie I already know usually. I gotta say, Jared, I can't think of any off the top of my head. And now I'm curious about this Support Your Local Sheriff movie, whatever that, because I've never even heard of that one. But thank God Highlander for you, because that's one of my top 10 movies of all time. Always will be. I love the Highlander. Who wants to live forever? Anyway, Krypton Cage writes, Thank you for talking about Paddington again and again. I swear those movies are probably two of the most delightful movies ever in Hollywood. I can't wait to see Paddington 3. And I don't know that they're making Paddington 3. Hopefully I just missed something. I desperately want them to make a Paddington 3 because seriously, guys, listen to Krypton. The first two Paddington films are stupid good. They're not just good. They're not just great. They're stupid good. And and I get it. There's a lot of you who are saying, John, it's a movie about a little bear. Give me a break. I get it. I get it because that's what I thought too before me and Schnepp went in and watched the first Paddington. You know, Schnepp and I, like, we were both, we got to go to the press junket. They invited us to go to the screening. We're going to go. Not expecting much at all. The trailers were cute, and we were hoping that maybe it would be cute. We both, I'll just never forget that, and I've told this story several times, but we both came out of that first Paddington movie going, what the F? That was great. Like, that wasn't just good, that was great. And then Paddington 2 may be even better. And I've said this before, and it's raised some eyebrows, but I'm dead serious about this. If they make a Paddington 3, and if it's on par, these are two big ifs, but if they make a Paddington 3, it's an if built on top of another if. And if it's on par with Paddington 1 and 2, I am telling you, it is in the conversation of the greatest trilogies of all time. I know that sounds ludicrous. I know that sounds hyperbolic, but I'm telling you it's true. I'm not saying it gets the #1 trilogy of all time spot. That's the Star Wars trilogy. That's the Godfather trilogy. That's Lord of the Rings. But I am telling you it's in the conversation. If they make a third one, and if it's on par with the other two, I think the Paddington films are that good. I really do. And you listen to Krypton, guys. Check it out because it's fantastic. All right. Krypton follows up with, what do you think about the announcement from Netflix that Snyder and Jay Oliva are creating a Norse mythology-based animated series? I don't like animated in general, but we'll definitely check this out. I'm indifferent right now. I'm indifferent. And I think the reason I'm indifferent has nothing to do with Snyder, nothing at all. Because they could have said, I think the greatest filmmaker of all time is Steven Spielberg. They could have said this is coming from Steven Spielberg, and I would only be slightly more interested in it. Because like you, just the material itself doesn't sound like much to me. Now listen, my opinion on that can radically change once we see a first trailer. They could radically change. For now, even if it was Spielberg's name attached to it, I wouldn't be much more, great. I would be a little bit more intrigued, but not much. Just because a straight to Netflix Norse mythology anime doesn't sound all that interesting to me. But again, that could radically change once I see a trailer. Radically. So for now, let's mark it down as I'm curious. I'm curious. So let's leave it at that. Suthius writes, your favorite Italian dish, general and homemade. Oh, that's simple. Just lasagna. Lasagna is especially my grandmother's, my nonna, my Italian grandmother, my nonna's lasagna. One of the things that I look forward to most every year that I go home at Christmas time is my grandmother's lasagna. That sounds like a stereotypical thing to say. I get it. But as an Italian, my grandparents' cooking, anything my grandmother makes is great, but it is her lasagna that I will literally travel across the country for. So I gotta say lasagna. Taki75 writes, hottest Italian-American MILF, Tomei or Carla Gugino. By the way, Carla is somebody, for those of you who don't know who she is, hold on a second. Carla, there we go. She's one of these actresses that you've seen in 1,000 different things. Why can't I just pull up a picture of her here? You've seen her in 1,000 different things. And she recently, like whether it's San Andreas, American Gangster, Watchmen, she recently got a lot of notoriety because of the straight to Netflix movie she was in with Bruce Greenwood. Something's Game. Let me just look it up. Bobby's Game, Reggie's Game, Gerald's Game. That was it. She got a lot of recognition for Gerald's Game as well. But she's one of these people that you see her in 1,000 things. Why can't I save this picture? Let me go to Google. Hold on a second. You see her in 1,000 things, but you never recognize her name. Why? Where's a damn picture? This is a good one. Okay, let me see if I can bring this one up. Okay, you see her name all over the place, but you never hear her mentioned. Let me see if I can get this a little bit. There we go. Let's do that. Yeah, there she is. So you instantly recognize her, right? Like everybody recognizes her. And she is incredibly, sickly beautiful. This woman is insanely beautiful. And you know what? She's super talented too. I love her in just about all the stuff she's in. And to this day, dude, she is still absolutely as cute as a button. On top of that, she's gorgeous and beautiful. And you know, checks all the boxes for sure. But I'm still going to go with Marissa Tomei. I still got to go for hot Aunt May, but Carla is definitely right up there as well. Okay. Ryan Lohner writes, Netflix just released season 2 of Guillermo del Toro's 3 Below. I checked for news on it literally the day before and found nothing. I'll be straight up with you, Ryan. I'll be honest. I've never even heard of it. Never even heard. Now, when you say Guillermo del Toro's, does that mean his name is on it or that he actually directed it? Because I don't know. I don't know. I'll be straight up with you. I've never even heard of 3 Below. So I'm not surprised you haven't seen any news for it because I've never even heard of it, to be honest with you. All right, Krypton, but is it for guys in the comment section, have you guys seen 3 Below? Is it something I should be checking out? Let me know in the comment section. All right, Krypton Cage writes, have you read the statement from Netflix? Something Warner Brothers has never said. ZS, I'm guessing Zack Snyder? Zack Snyder's innovation in visual storytelling has pushed the industry forward and established him as one of the most distinctive filmmakers of his generation. Oh, you know what? Pay no attention to that. I'm not saying that none of that's true, but I'm saying pay no attention. I'll tell you what that's from. That's from the press release that Netflix put out. Whenever a press release comes out about an upcoming movie or TV show and a director's been attached or a writer's been attached, whatever, the job of these press releases is to blow all sorts of smoke up people's asses. They do it for Steven Spielberg, obviously, but they do it for every filmmaker too. Because, you know, it's a press release. You're talking about this as the greatest thing ever. And, if NBC launches a new show with a certain actor, we are thrilled to be working with X actor who for years and decades maybe has been a shining example of what it means to be a professional actor in this business. He brings an emotional range and blah, blah, blah. And then the actor will write, I'm so honored to be working with NBC, who has been the shining beacon of light and entertainment for 100 years and blah, blah, blah. That's what press releases are. That's what press releases are. Whether it's a Zack Snyder, whether it's a Christopher Nolan, whether it's, I don't know, Mark Neveldine and Brian Taylor, whether it's any director, when they put out a press release, it's all about blowing smoke. It's all about blowing smoke, both ways. The network or the studio say, this is the greatest thing ever to work with this filmmaker. And then the filmmaker's PR person writes, working with this studio is the greatest thing ever. I mean, that's what these press releases are. Again, not taking away that maybe those are valid things to say, but I guarantee you, if tomorrow Warner Brothers signed to do a new zombie movie with Zack Snyder, I guarantee you the press release will be all magnificent glowing things about Zack Snyder or any filmmaker they're working with. That's what these do. Not taken away from any of the validity of it, but that's what they do. So I wouldn't read too much into what's put into press releases. I wouldn't put too much stock in that one way or the other. Quinn Allfather 69 writes, I thought the director's cut of Batman vs. Superman released on digital made it a much better movie than theatrical release. There are a lot of people who feel that way. I do not. I feel it was marginally better. I think it was marginally better, but it made the mistake of just adding tons of new footage without actually editing anything else or taking anything else out. And I think that was a mistake. I think it could have become a significantly better film if they added a bunch of stuff, but also edited a few things, taken out a couple of little things, moved a couple of things around a little bit. Instead, all they did was they took a wheelbarrow of extra footage and just dumped it into the movie. That's all they did. They just took a wheelbarrow of a bunch of extra scenes and just tipped it over and dumped it onto the movie and said, oh, now it's the ultimate cut or whatever it is they call it. And I agree, to a point, it made it a little bit better. But I don't think significantly so, because I also think there were drawbacks. I think there would have been a better way to do it, but yeah, I think it was a slightly better one. I don't think significantly better, but you're not alone, Quinn. There are a lot of people who feel like it made it a significantly better film. So you are certainly not alone in that thought. There's a lot of people who feel that way. Amlan Priyar Darshi writes, astrophysicist musician Dr. Brian May is the lead guitarist of Queen, John. Oh, I didn't realize that. I couldn't name any of the people in Queen. I'll be honest with you, because I think that came as somebody brought up Brian May earlier. I'm not a music historian. I could not tell you the only person I could name in Queen is Freddie Mercury. I could not tell you the name of any of the rest of them, to be honest with you. But thank you for bringing that up, Amlin. All right. Gessis writes, too many expensive streaming services. Don't treat it like a subscription. Buy 1 month per time. I often will get a streaming service for 1 month and then cancel. I mean, I guess it depends on the streaming service. Because for instance, like with Netflix, there's just so much stuff on Netflix that I'm not just going to get Netflix when Punisher season 2 drops, binge it and then cancel, because there's just too much other stuff on Netflix I like watching. I like having Netflix. With HBO, yeah, Game of Thrones, but they got so much stuff on Netflix. I want access to that all the time. So I'm going to have that. When Disney Plus launches, it depends. Like, Disney Plus is only launching with one show, from what I understand. I mean, they're going to have a lot of content, but as far as original stuff goes, they're launching with The Mandalorian. So I don't know, maybe I will join up for Disney Plus for 1 month, cancel, and then wait for the Loki series to come out or the WandaVision series to come out or whatever other original stuff they're doing. But then again, maybe they launch with a huge library of content that I'll want to have access to the whole time. So I guess it depends. What that really does, and like even for something like Star Trek Discovery, I really like Star Trek Discovery. It's the only thing I have CBS All Access for. But I can't get it for a month and cancel because I like watching every episode, and they releases it 1 episode a week, which is, by the way, something I think Netflix is going to do in the coming years. You're going to see Netflix move from just dropping an entire season at once to putting out 1 episode a week, because that's how you build your audience. And I think they're realizing that. Anyway. So yeah, I don't know if that works. Let me rephrase that, Gises. I don't know that that would work for me, because for my viewing habits, I don't know if that approach would work for me, because I like a lot of stuff on these services, and I like to go back and just pop them on whenever I want, rather than just getting them for one show at a time. But again, I guess it all depends on your viewing habits. And if that works for your viewing habits, then that's brilliant. I don't think it would work for my viewing habits, though, because mine are clearly a little bit different from yours. All right. David Goldstein, right. Does Anne make fun of your rants? No, Anne makes fun of me for just about everything under the sun, but not for my rants. Suthius writes, another Hellboy reboot in 10 years? I love them both. I really don't think so. Because 3 Hellboy movies have been made now. Let me bring this up. Hellboy movies, box office. All right. None of them have made a lot of money. None of them have made a lot of money. And they've all, like, the first Hellboy, this new Hellboy made $21 million worldwide. $21 million worldwide. The first Hellboy movie didn't even make 100, made $99 million worldwide. Not good enough. I was surprised it got a sequel. They did do a sequel, and it made the most out of all of them, but even the most it made was $160 million, and guess what? At $160 million, it lost money. The first Hellboy lost money. The second Hellboy lost money. The third Hellboy, this new one that we just got, lost a hell of a lot of money. I don't see why a studio in their right mind would do another one. So I'm going to go out on a limb. Animated may be different. They might do an animated thing, but I'm going to go out on a limb and guess not within the next 10 years. I don't see another studio, because I like the first 2 Hellboy movies, but they lost money. So why would you make another one? And then they tried to reboot and it lost money. I really don't see another studio picking it up and doing it again. Perhaps a low budget animated thing, but no, I don't see them doing it. It It financially doesn't make any sense. The Sock writes, went to see Midsommar last Sunday. Don't know how I feel. Took 45 minutes for them to get the projector working because I guess the power went out. Oh no, that's awful. That is awful. Listen, if you're unsure, I would say go back and give it another chance, because something like that has got to affect your overall movie-going experience. And that's terrible that you had that experience, Sock. That's awful. I would say go back and give it another shot. See what happens. Go back and give it another shot. Let's see. Guy Volt writes, do you think Stylebender could beat Whitaker? Yes. And I think he will beat Whitaker. This dude is a very unique talent. His fight against Gastelum, by the way, one of the top 10 fights I have ever seen in the UFC history. Maybe not top 5, but one of the top 10 fights. It was crazy good. Such a good fight. And that whole card was great. But yes, I do see Stylebender beating Whitaker. I mean, anything can happen in the UFC. It's no guarantee. But if I had to put $5 on it, I'm betting he wins that fight. Lord of Thunder, Prince of Stars writes, are there too many shape-shifting things in the MCU? Loki's illusions, Barf, that's the technology, Skrulls, visions, matter manipulation, setting, nothing can be trusted. Maybe that yeah, I don't know, because like Loki's not a big presence in a lot of the movies, so that's not a thing. But you're right, they've gone to that well that somebody can make themselves look like something else. We've seen it with Loki. We've seen it with the Barf illusions that we're getting in Spider-Man, whereas the Skrulls do it. Maybe they are going back to that well a little too much. I'll be honest with you, Lord of Thunder, I've never thought of it. But now that you mention it, Loki can make himself look like somebody else with his illusions. With the illusion technology, Barf, that Mysterio uses, he can make you think you're seeing somebody when you're not. The Skrulls are shapeshifters. I don't know that they've done visions matter manipulation in that way in the MCU, so maybe that's not a thing, but maybe they are going back to it. I haven't thought about it, but now that's going to be on my mind from now on, Lord of Thunder. Django 19 writes, because it's my name and it's all I have. That's what I think of when you say that's all I have is my honest opinion. It's a Molly's Game quote. By the way, Molly's Game, hyper underappreciated movie. That movie is great. Absolutely fantastic. I love that movie. I wish more people had gone to see it. I thought it should have gotten more awards consideration than it did. That movie is bloody brilliant. It's a good comparison, Django, by the way. It really is. Dangerous Lee writes, John, love your rants. My favorite is your rant when WB/DC announced Gotham City Sirens. Most hilarious of all is that Warner Brothers fired Greg Silverman one day after your rant. You downplay it, but I find you are quite influential. I think that was probably more coincidental. Let's be clear. I think that was probably more coincidental than anything else. And I'll be also honest with you. I don't even remember the rant. I don't remember the rant in question. But I'll tell you what, do me a favor, Dangerous. Can you email me, john@thejohncampeashow.com, and just put rant link or something in the subject line. And can you send me a link to that? Because I'd be curious to know what it is you're talking about. So I'd be curious to go back and watch that again. Thank you for sharing that. But again, I don't think it's me being influential. I think that was very clearly probably coincidental than anything else. But thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. Sam Fisher writes, Brian May is the Queen guitarist. Yep, somebody else also pointed that out to me. I never would have known. Ketchup on Eggs writes, if you could have approached the Star Wars prequel story yourself, what would you have done differently? Oh, dude, that's not something I can answer here. That's something you do a video essay on. The funny thing is, from a story point of view, I've always said this. If you just sat down, let's say you never saw the prequels, and you sat down with like a 6 or 7 page outline, over 6 or 7 pages outlining story points of the prequels before George fleshed it out and wrote out the full script. Let's say you sat down and just got like a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 page outline of what the prequel movies would be. I made the argument before that it probably reads really well. I think if you look at the key mileposts events of the prequels and you just walk through it like that, it probably has the bones to be something pretty good. To me, it was execution. It's the little decisions he made throughout it, and it just wasn't executed well. And that's that. But I think the basic story idea was a good idea. George is great with coming up with the story. Not so much the full fleshed out screenplay, but I think George is a genius coming up with the premise, the story. And other than that, it's far too big of a topic to go into here. But I've always thought that the basic principle of the prequels were good ideas. Artur Mansouri writes, do you think a live-action Toy Story could work? It depends on what you mean by live action. Do you mean animated in such a way like Lion King's been animated? Maybe. But that's animated. That's not live action. Do you mean live action as in people dressed up in costumes? No, that wouldn't work. Do you mean live action in a live action movie with CG animated characters like the toys? Maybe. Yeah, it could work. Would it work? Could and would are two different questions. Those are two different questions. But if you're asking, could it work? I'll say, yeah, it could. Not necessarily that it would, but it could. There's a way for that to work. Cinema Reviews writes, people need to stop saying, ruined my childhood. Oh, I agree. The term makes no sense and makes my brain hurt if I think about it for longer than a few seconds. Yeah, I agree. It's a stupid thing to say. It's always been a stupid thing to say. And I agree. It's one of the dumber things that we as film fans, and let's admit it, most of us are guilty of it. We've probably uttered the phrase about a movie more than once or twice, but it is one of the dumber things we do. It's one of the dumber things we do. I agree with you on that. Matt Brown writes, 24 hasn't made one movie that I didn't at least enjoy. Ooh, I don't know, man. A24 has made a lot of movies, and they make a lot of great movies. They make a lot of great movies. The one that I remember, first of all, I didn't like Lady Bird. I actually quite disliked Lady Bird, but I was one of the few people, because most people loved Lady Bird, and I think it got nominated for Best Picture, but I didn't like it at all. The Florida Project was really good. It Comes at Night was really good. The Witch I thought was really good. Good Time was fantastic. But yeah, I didn't like Lady Bird. Another one I didn't like was A Ghost Story. I thought that had a lot of potential with the talent involved in front of and behind the character. That never worked for me well. Loved Moonlight, loved High Life, loved Swiss Army Man, loved American Honey, loved Green Room, loved Lobster. Yeah, man, they've got a really good track record, but there are a few that didn't work for me. And yeah, I've already mentioned a couple of them. So not every of them, but they do make a lot of really good movies. A24 is great. Edwin Arzola writes, hey, John, have you seen What's Eating Gilbert Grape? Oh, with Johnny Depp and a much, much younger Leonardo DiCaprio? Yes. Actually, Leonardo DiCaprio, if I'm not mistaken, Leonardo DiCaprio actually got an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor for that movie, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, I really like What's Eating Gilbert Grape. All right, Cinema Reviews writes, one of two. I made a new term, ray-skying. Definition, the act of simultaneously oversimplifying and overcomplicating, even to the point of hypocrisy. Example, Ray. Skywalker theorists need to stop ray-skying. Okay, I'll tell you what, I'm not following. The act of simultaneously oversimplifying and overcomplicating, even to the point of hypocrisy. You have to give me, don't just say Ray, give me an example of what would be an example of Ray skying. What would be about Ray? What could somebody say about Ray that would be, by your definition, oversimplifying and overcomplicating to the point of hypocrisy? You got to give me an example of what would fit that definition. Don't just say Ray. What specifically could somebody say about Ray that would meet that? I'm curious. It's not a rhetorical question. I'm being honest. I'm curious to know what you mean by that, because you've obviously put a lot of thought into that. I'd like to know what you mean by that. And that'll do it, guys. We are now all done today's installment of of Open Mic. And by the way, guys, you've noticed I've edited this together in such a way because I had to cut it short earlier. And I just decided to piece these all together and make it one video again. So there we have it. That's today's installment of Open Mic. Guys, thank you so much for being here and being part of the show today, for sending in the questions, because number one, you give us fun stuff to talk about. Number two, you've supported the channel along the way, as you've done it as well. And I thank you for that. Don't forget, guys, tomorrow on Sunday, Open Mic is back. However, it'll be later in the day than it normally is, because Ann and I are going to go to Disneyland with some friends of ours. So we're going to do that. I believe we're going to aim to do tomorrow's Open Mic at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So normally it's at like 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, but tomorrow it'll be 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, special time for tomorrow. And then again, guys, don't forget, we do have my upcoming at San Diego Comic-Con this coming Friday. It's going to be after Endgame. Where does the comic book genre go from here? It's going to be myself, Christian Harloff, Chris Gore, and of course the great Kyle Newman. Make sure you guys come if you're in the San Diego for the area for that. If you're at Comic-Con, make sure you come Friday morning at 11 a.m. to our panel on that. We hope to see you there. All right, guys, that will do it for me for now. Thanks so much for being here. My name's John Campea, and until next time, bye-bye.